Chapter 22:16. 22:16 was desperate. Boom, boom, boom. In the center of eternal thunder, the eternal kingdom, which was guarding the northern region, released a vast divine might. The enormous eternal kingdom, which was like a valley, released a purple light. Buzz, buzz. The eternal kingdom trembled slightly and then disappeared in an instant. What happened? Why did our Master God's eternal kingdom suddenly disappear? Everyone on the surrounding thunderclap planet looked surprised when they saw the sudden disappearance of the eternal kingdom. Their faces were full of curiosity and doubt. Dragon King, even if I have to escape, I will let you enjoy the pain of losing a loved one, the pain of losing a woman, ha! The enormous eternal kingdom flew at high speed, shuttling through the void from time to time. Thunder God Lord stood in the sky above the eternal divine kingdom, staring at the front with a ferocious face. There was a saying that even a dog would jump over the wall if it was anxious. The Thunder God Lord was undoubtedly forced to this point. The power of the Dragon Palace had completely exceeded his expectations. 3 God Lord level existences, together with the eternal divine leaf, they had destroyed Double Fox God Lord. There was a very high possibility of them destroying him. With the hatred between the two sides, it was impossible to reconcile. He was destined to escape everywhere. Before he escaped, he wanted to take revenge crazily. The extraordinary continent, the Dragon Palace and the Phoenix dynasty established by the Dragon Queen. Thunder God Lord murmured, his eyes full of bloody killing intent. He had all the information about the Dragon Palace, including the Dragon King's woman. He would never do such a thing unless it was absolutely necessary. Not to mention the other party's crazy revenge, even a God Lord would not do such a thing just because of his reputation. But in this situation, he had nothing to consider. What honor did a stray dog care about? He stared ahead and stood proudly in the divine kingdom. At this point, his entire body was full of ease. Buzz. The eternal divine kingdom speed was very fast. In less than 10 minutes, the Thunder God Lord appeared in front of the Transcendence continent. His eyes revealed a sinister look. Today, I will completely destroy your planet. The Thunder God Lord stood proudly in the sky, his entire body incomparably cold as he roared. Crackle, crackle. At the next moment, the entire divine kingdom burst out with terrifying lightning. Countless lightning bolts covered the void of the entire Transcendence continent. Lightning was brewing and gathering. He wanted to destroy the entire planet with a single strike, destroying everyone on it. Destroying the planet, killing tens of billions of people, there had never been an expert who dared to do such a heinous thing. What's the situation? At this moment, a group of girls in the extraordinary continent saw the sky suddenly filled with thunder and lightning. The terrifying destructive thunder and lightning covered almost half of the planet, and their expressions changed drastically. Look over there. Oh no, that seems to be the Thunder God Lord's eternal divine kingdom. He wants to destroy our entire planet. Feng Wan looked at the sky in the east and saw the incomparably huge eternal divine kingdom that contained boundless divine might. Her expression changed drastically. Why did the Thunder God Lord suddenly come over? Isn't he afraid of the Dragon Palace's counterattack? The group of girls' faces were filled with shock as they cried out involuntarily. No, we must resist his attack. Otherwise, the entire planet will be finished. Lan Qingyue's expression was extremely gloomy. Little Blue. She hurriedly shouted. Woo woo. Little Blue, who was 200 kilometers in size, let out a roar. Xiao Lan, who was 200 kilometers in size, now had the strength of a peak deity. It raised its head and looked at the Thunder God Lord in the sky while emitting a savage aura. Its eyes swept across the lightning in the sky, and a hint of solemnity flashed in its eyes. What's going on? Why are there so many lightning bolts in the sky? Is it going to destroy the world? What a terrifying energy! Elderland's godly beast has attacked. It must be an enemy invasion. Lightning bolts, the sky is full of lightning bolts. Don't tell me it's the people from the eternal shocking lightning? Everyone on the Transcendence continent looked up in panic. This scene was like the end of the world. I'll go over and ask Master Lan to block this attack. Contact the experts of the Dragon Palace immediately. Lan Qingyue clenched her fists and shouted loudly. Qingyue, I'm of the light element. I'll go with you. Sun Lingxiu moved and flew toward Xiaolan's body. Lan Qingyue hesitated for a moment and nodded. Don't follow me. It's useless, she said to the other girls, not letting them come over. Lan, can you get rid of these thunderbolts? Lan Qingyue landed on Lan Qingyue's head and said loudly to him. Woo woo. Lan Qingyue stared at the thunderbolts that filled the sky, and her gaze fell in the direction of the eternal divine kingdom. You want to use the black hole to take it away? Lan Qingyue frowned slightly. Using the black hole to take the eternal divine kingdom and even the eternal God Lord to another location, they would also follow. At that time, with Little Blue and their strength, they would not be a match for the God Lord. Sister Lingxiu, you go down first. Lan Qingyue immediately said to Sun Lingxiu. Qingyue, stop talking nonsense, go. Sun Lingxiu grabbed her hand and stared at her as she said. Lingxiu, I can't guarantee that Little Blue will be able to escape from the God Lord's attack. Lan Qingyue's expression was a little ugly. She gritted her teeth and patted Little Blue who was beneath her. Woo woo. An earth-shattering roar sounded. One. Little Blue's incomparably huge body directly trembled. He opened his incomparably huge mouth. In front of his mouth, a black hole appeared. The black hole expanded at a terrifying speed. Boom boom boom. The black hole connected to another region and pushed forward. As Little Blue advanced, the black hole expanded at a terrifying speed. In the void ahead, everything was devoured by the black hole. Oh, what divine beast is this? How can it be so huge? A space beast? In the void, Thunder God Lord looked at Little Blue who had suddenly appeared, and his face revealed a shocked expression. A 200 kilometers large void beast, what kind of concept was this? Even if he was a God Lord, this was the first time he had seen such a terrifying and huge beast. Oh no, that black hole can devour everything. Thunder God Lord's expression changed slightly, but soon after, a savage expression appeared on his face. A beast die. He waved his arm, and the surrounding lightning immediately gathered into a 100-kilometer-long lightning spear, directly attacking towards Little Blue. Woo woo. Little Blue saw the incoming lightning spear and let out a muffled roar. He charged the black hole towards the lightning spear. The lightning spear disappeared into the black hole instantly. At this time, the entire black hole had expanded to an area of a few million kilometers. Damn, this beast is so strange. The Thunder God Lord's expression changed. 1. At this moment, a terrifying suction force came from Little Blue's body, causing the eternal divine kingdom in the void to tremble. Blue increased speed, directly covered by the black hole. Chapter 2217. 2217 was desperate. 1. The black hole that covered nearly 10 million kilometers completely enveloped the Thunder God Lord and his eternal divine kingdom. In the void of the Transcendence continent, the entire sky was unusually clear. The dense lightning slowly dissipated. The eternal divine kingdom and the black hole had completely disappeared. If it really was the Thunder God Lord, Qingyue and Lingxiu are in danger. We must contact Little Xian as soon as possible. Although the group of girls saw that they had survived the crisis, Little Lan Qingyue and Sun Lingxiu were also in danger. If it was really Thunder God's doing, it would be a devastating blow to Lan Qingyue and Sun Lingxiu. The girls looked anxious and immediately contacted him. Buzz. However, at this moment, in the vast void of the northern region, a black hole slowly appeared. Not long after the black hole appeared, an incomparably terrifying lightning spear shot out from the black hole, directly attacking the void ahead. In front, a fireball-like planet floated in the void. The lightning spear accurately landed on the Death Star. Boom! A violent explosion sounded out. The terrifying lightning spear directly pierced through the planet, emitting a violent explosion. One. Following that, an incomparably huge eternal divine kingdom emerged from the black hole, followed closely by an incomparably huge gray void behemoth. The Thunder God Lord, who was caught off guard and was sucked into the black hole, had an extremely ugly expression. He turned his head, his blood-red eyes staring at Little Blue who had appeared behind him, his face filled with fury. He never would have thought that a god lord like him would actually be brought into the vast void by an animal. Although this was the northern region, it was still far away from the planet on the Transcendence continent. Crackle crackle. Thunder God Lord's entire body was emitting violent lightning. Countless bolts of lightning shot into the sky from the eternal divine kingdom. "You beast, die for me!" He roared, and countless bolts of lightning condensed into one and directly struck towards Little Blue. "Not good, Little Blue, quickly flee." Lan Qingyue saw the incomparably terrifying lightning attack coming over and hurriedly shouted at Little Blue. "Woo woo!" Little Blue also felt the threat of death from the bolts of lightning. He let out a low roar, and another black hole appeared in front of him. "Damn it, what kind of monster is this? Why is it able to travel through black holes even though I used my divine might to suppress a domain?" Thunder God Lord appeared once again, and a look of shock and anger appeared on his face. In a battle between experts above the deity realm, one could use their divine might to seal a domain and prevent the opponent from teleporting. But now, his divine might didn't have the slightest effect on this space beast. "You want to escape? Die!" Thunder God Lord roared furiously, and the lightning in the sky scattered and fell toward Little Blue who was behind the black hole. In an instant, the dense lightning fell on Xiaolan's body. Roar, roar, roar. In an instant, blood splattered all over Xiaolan's body. Light of hope. Sun Lingxiu saw the injuries on Xiaolan's body and her expression changed slightly. She placed both her hands on Xiaolan's body and let out a dazzling white light. However, now that she had ignited 6 wisps of divine fire, the healing effect was only a drop in the bucket. Woo woo. Little Blue endured the large-scale injuries and burrowed into the black hole to escape. "Die, I will definitely kill you today." When the Thunder God Lord saw that Little Blue wanted to escape, he let out a savage roar and immediately entered the black hole to continue his pursuit. "Little Blue, hold on, you have to hold on." Lan Qingyue looked behind her with an extremely ugly expression. Facing a god lord, if Little Blue wasn't the legendary Kuan, she would have been killed by now. However, it would be difficult to escape from a god lord. 1. Little Blue's body entered the black hole again and appeared at the border between the northern and eastern regions. An enormous energy tide pierced through the entire void. However, at this moment, Lan Qingyue, Sun Lingxiu, and the others did not have the time to check their surroundings. Little Blue's body stepped out of the black hole and immediately opened its incomparably huge mouth, wanting to continue releasing it. "If you can escape from my hands, I, the mighty Thunder God Lord, can commit suicide." When Little Blue's body had yet to step into the black hole, the Thunder God Lord's voice appeared in the sky. Boom! Following that, an incomparably terrifying power landed on Little Blue's body. The terrifying lightning completely covered it. Ao ao ao. A painful voice came out of Little Blue's mouth, and in an instant his entire body was blackened by the lightning. His gray body completely turned black, and purple lightning covered it densely. Lan Qingyue and Sun Lingxiu were protected by Xiaolan. "Xiaolan, consume your life force. Enter the energy tide ahead." Lan Qingyue let out a low growl with an extremely ugly expression. Wang wang. Xiaolan's body trembled as the black part of his body that was covered by lightning fell down. He endured the pain on his body and entered the energy tide directly. "Haha, you beast, your vitality is really strong. However, today, Even if you have 10 lives, I will still kill you." The Thunder God Lord roared furiously. He floated in the eternal kingdom and waved his arm. An incomparably huge thunder spear appeared in his hand. So, the thunder spear that was at least 100 kilometers in size directly attacked Little Blue. Peng! The lightning spear landed on Little Blue's body and instantly pierced through it. Woo woo! Little Blue let out a painful cry as his speed suddenly increased. What a terrifying life force! Seeing that Little Blue was still not killed, shock flashed in the Thunder God Lord's eyes. Die! Behind him, more than 10 lightning spears appeared and attacked Little Blue once again. Kuan Domain. Lan Qingyue clenched her arms tightly and shouted softly. Buzz! Xiao Lan instantly disappeared into thin air. More than 10 lightning spears pierced through Xiao Lan's previous position. Very quickly, Xiao Lan appeared 10,000 kilometers away. Woo woo, Mom, I can feel the energy of the black hole right in front of me. At this moment, Xiao Lan suddenly said to Lan Qingyue. Black hole? What black hole? Lan Qingyue was slightly stunned and immediately asked. I don't know. It leads to an unknown place. The energy of the black hole is raging inside. It's very difficult to pass through, but Little Blue can pass through. Little Blue said. Go over. Lan Qingyue gritted her teeth and immediately gave him an order. Woo-woo. Little Blue let out a violent roar and flew crazily towards the direction of the black hole. Damn it. When the Thunder God Lord saw the space beast dodge his attack and instantly appear 10,000 kilometers away, he let out a furious roar. Buzz! His body moved and he immediately chased after it. Look, what is that? At that moment, in front of the energy tide, Eternal Divine Leaf and Eternal Thunder's disciples suddenly saw the terrifying beast from the lower reaches flying over. Their faces were filled with shock. Chapter 2218. 2218 2218 Upgrade. You want to escape? At the lower reaches of the energy tide, the terrifying space beast was escaping. Everyone around the energy tide looked over in shock. Feeling the savage aura, everyone widened their eyes. At this moment, an extremely angry voice came from behind. That's the Thunder God Lord, the Thunder God Lord and his eternal divine kingdom. Hiss, what is that terrifying beast? Why is the Thunder God Lord chasing after us so furiously? When everyone saw the eternal divine kingdom and the vast figure above, their expressions changed drastically. Especially the disciples of the eternal divine leaves, they hurriedly fled into the distance. The eternal thunder and the eternal divine leaves were enemies. Crackle crackle. The sky full of lightning once again attacked Little Blue. Everyone looked at the world-destroying lightning, their hearts trembling as they frantically tried to hide in their surroundings. Boom boom boom. The lightning wreaked havoc, and even the massive energy tide was greatly affected. 1. A gray energy appeared on Little Blue's body, and his incomparably huge eyes stared at the black hole that was pouring out the energy tide. Boom. Boom. The terrifying lightning struck the energy defense behind Xiao Lan. It penetrated the energy and struck his body. In an instant, his body turned pitch black again. Xiao Lan, who was originally around 200 kilometers, was now only 150 kilometers in size. The reason why Xiao Lan was able to block the fatal attacks time and time again was because he had to pay the price of losing his body. This was also the terror of Kuan. Pa pa pa. Black skin was washed away by the energy tide. Little Blue stared at the violent black hole that was just a short distance away and directly rushed into it. That giant beast wants to enter the black hole of the tide. Is that giant beast courting death? When everyone saw Little Blue rushing into the black hole of the tide, their faces were filled with shock. There was once a god lord who decided to enter the tidal black hole because he was curious about why there were treasures flowing out of it. However, he was injured and escaped from there. From then on, no one dared to enter the tidal black hole. Now that they saw that huge beast rushing in, Their faces were filled with shock. This huge beast wants to enter the tidal black hole. Behind them, the Thunder God Lord's expression changed drastically when he saw this scene. His face sank. Is this guy looking to die? His eyes flickered as he growled in a low voice. Holy shit, what the F is going on? However, at this moment at the center of the energy-tied black hole, an earthen yellow figure was hiding inside. When he saw an incomparably terrifying space beast flying over from behind, he was somewhat dumbfounded. He was a famous treasure thief, but he had only come here to search for treasures for a few days. He relied on the divine dragon body he condensed to obtain many treasures within a few days. Why did a savage beast suddenly appear now? Crackle crackle. The most frightening thing was that at this moment, he suddenly felt a destructive bolt of lightning striking towards him. This bolt of lightning, it's that fellow Jingla. Damn it, this young master here is obediently looking for treasures. How can I be so unlucky? The Earth Grandson's face was incomparably pale. He hurriedly moved and immediately transformed into the 10,000-meter Earth Divine Dragon's body. Ah! A pained cry rang out. The dragon scales on his dragon body were struck down by the lightning, and his entire face revealed a look of fear. This young master doesn't want to die. He frantically dodged under Xiao Lan's body. What an unexpected disaster. Xiao Lan endured the attack of the lightning in the sky and frantically flew into the black hole. Woo-woo. When he saw the divine dragon flying towards him, he was slightly stunned. He opened his huge mouth and directly swallowed it. Fuck. The Earth Grandson's expression changed. He felt as if he had entered the tiger's mouth. Wang. Little Blue's body slowly entered the black hole and gradually disappeared. The Thunder God Lord looked at the huge beast that had completely disappeared. He stood there with an uncertain expression. Even the God Lord will die if he enters the black hole. You, a beast, will also die. He let out a low roar and swept his gaze around. With a gloomy expression, he immediately flew into the void. He was about to begin his own escape. Within the black hole of the energy tide, Xiao Lan let out a low growl. He opened his huge mouth and devoured some of the treasures within the black hole. We can't go back. We have to head to the end of the black hole. Lan Qingyue and Sun Lingxiu looked at each other and said, It's all right. We'll come back. Moreover, Xiao Xian will come looking for us. The two of them held hands tightly. A smile appeared on their faces as they looked at the vast darkness in front of them. That place was an unknown star field, an unknown world. What? The Thunder God Lord is attacking the Transcendence continent. Xiao Lan and Qingyue Lingxiu are trying to lure the Thunder God Lord away. We can't contact him now? At this moment, at the location of the Eternal Twin Foxes, Wang Xian's expression changed drastically when he received the messages from the girls. His face instantly revealed an extremely brutal aura. Beside him, Chen Feiyang, the god of divine leaves, was slightly shocked when he sensed Wang Xian's aura. Little brother Wang Xian, what happened? The god of divine leaves asked solemnly. The god of thunder has attacked a planet in the Dragon Palace's territory and wants to destroy the planet. Wang Xian said with a gloomy face, Brother divine leaves, help me take care of this place. I want to leave immediately. All right, you go and take care of the matters of the Dragon Palace first. Master Shinai nodded immediately. All the members of the Dragon Palace, follow me. He, return to the Dragon Palace as soon as possible. Wang Xian immediately ordered his subordinates around him. It's the Dragon King. He and the rest also knew the severity of the matter. They immediately led Wang Xian and all the members of the Dragon Palace away. Chen Feiyang also followed by the side. Dragon King, logically speaking, it's impossible for the Lord of Thunderclap to shed all pretense of cordiality with us at this time. Furthermore, it's impossible for us to spread the news of us killing the Double Fox God Lord in such a short period of time. Crab, Chen Feiyang, and the rest brought the Dragon Palace flying. Wang Xian stood in the Dragon Palace with a gloomy face. Prime Minister Gue frowned and said from the side, "I know. With the speed of the communication device, even if someone from Eternal Thunderclap is on the fallen immortal island, it is impossible for the news to reach Eternal Thunderclap so quickly. If anything happens to Qingyue Lingxiu and the rest, Eternal Thunderclap." Wang Xian nodded his head coldly. His eyes were filled with killing intent. From the western region to the northern region, with the speed of the God Lord, it would take at least 10 minutes. Along the way, he passed by Eternal Thunderclap. When Wang Xian saw that the eternal kingdom of the Thunder God Lord was not around, killing intent surged in his heart. There were only two possibilities for such a situation. First, someone had informed the Thunder God Lord. When the Thunder God Lord found out about the terrifying strength of the Dragon Palace, he was desperate and wanted to risk his life. And the person who could inform him so quickly was only at the level of the God Lord. Secondly, the Thunder God Lord had also come to the fallen immortal island. After witnessing the terrifying strength of the Dragon Palace, he took revenge in advance. Chapter 2219. 2219 Upgrading 2219. Buzz. Xiao Xian, we can't contact Qingyue and Lingxiu right now. Hurry up and look for them. If they didn't leave with Xiao Lan, we might have been killed by the Thunder God. When Wang Xian arrived on Earth, a group of girls flew over and asked anxiously, "Where did they go?" Wang Xian's face was gloomy as he asked the group of girls. "I don't know. Xiao Lan used the black hole teleportation. We don't know where they went either." The group of girls replied, "Damn it. Chen Feiyang, Ao Crab, and Enlai searched the surroundings immediately. With Xiao Lan's speed, she should still be in the northern region." Everyone from the Dragon Palace searched through the planet-by-planet teleportation. Wang Xian calmed his heart and sensed the location of Lan Qingyue, Xiao Lan, and Sun Lingxiu. Without sensing anything, he immediately gave an order. "It's the Dragon King." Chen Feiyang, Ao He, and the rest of the members of the Dragon Palace left immediately. Chen Feiyang, Ao He, and the dark blazing demonic dragon flew directly into the void while the members of the Dragon Palace used the teleportation formation to search for information. As he watched them leave, Wang Xian stood there with a gloomy face. "Don't worry, Dragon King. According to the investigations conducted by the Dragon Palace, the Dragon Queen and the rest are not in danger. Xiao Lan is a race at the peak of the universe. It's not that easy to kill her." Prime Minister Gui walked to Wang Xian's side and comforted him. He nodded. From the soul-returning wood and the number of people in the Dragon Palace, he could see that Lan Qingyue, Sun Lingxiu, and the rest were not killed. "I've made you all worried." Wang Xian hugged the rest of the girls and comforted them. "We're fine. As long as Qingyue and the rest are fine." The girls said worriedly, "Let's wait in the Dragon Palace." As Wang Xian spoke, he returned to the Dragon Palace with an expressionless face. Soon, the entire northern region was in a state of chaos. All the members of the Dragon Palace went to the planets to search for news. When they entered the territory of Eternal Shocking Thunder, some of the experts of Eternal Shocking Thunder wanted to ask the disciples of the Dragon Palace to get out. However, all those who tried to stop them were killed on the spot. This shocked everyone in Eternal Shocking Thunder. Some planets asked for help, but there was no response. Then, someone realized that 5 peak godly state experts of the Dragon Palace had rushed into the main planet of Eternal Shocking Thunder, the planet of Shocking Thunder. The 5 peak godly state experts of the Dragon Palace had suppressed everyone in Eternal Thunderclap. The last 2 peak godly state experts had been killed by the experts of the Dragon Palace. This shocked the entire northern region. Everyone was confused. Where did the God Lord of Thunderclap go? Why did the Dragon Palace dare to be so arrogant? Soon, 7 to 8 hours later, a piece of shocking news arrived. The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace ordered 3 Godlord level existences under his command, along with the help of the Leaf God Lord of the East, to kill the Double Fox God Lord of the West. the entire Eternal Double Fox had been completely destroyed by the Dragon Palace. When everyone in the north heard the news, their first reaction was disbelief. But when they thought about how the entire north had been ravaged by the Dragon Palace and how eternal shocking thunder had been suppressed by the experts of the Dragon Palace, everyone took a deep breath. All of this should be true. Where did the Thunder God Lord go? There was also a result. He escaped. This made everyone in Eternal Thunderclap extremely terrified. The three God Lords of the Dragon Palace, together with the help of the Eternal Divine Leaf of the East, were completely invincible. Even the Thunder God Lord had to flee. This news shocked everyone, but soon there was another piece of news that shocked the northern region. Before the Thunder God Lord escaped, he went to the Dragon Palace's nest to destroy the planet, but he was attracted away by a terrifying Dragon Queen and Space Beast. Now, the three God Lord level experts of the Dragon Palace and Dragon Palace were searching wantonly. In the end, news came from the Energy Tide Black Hole. The Dragon Queen led the Space Beast into the Energy Tide Black Hole. All the disciples of the Eternal Thunderclap were trembling. Now that their God Lord had escaped, the Dragon Palace was invincible. Would the Dragon Palace implicate their ordinary disciples? The Black Hole of the Energy Tide. At this moment, Wang Xian was sitting in the Dragon Palace. His expression was a little ugly. He had also found out the whereabouts of Qing Yu and Ling Xiu. However, what he didn't expect was that they had entered the Black Hole of the Energy Tide. Ever since Wang Xian arrived at the Boundless Galaxy, the first place he went to was the Black Hole of the Energy Tide. Wang Xian knew a little about the Black Hole of the Energy Tide. The Black Hole contained a terrifying amount of energy. Even the God Lord would have a slim chance of survival if he entered it. According to the information from the Dragon Palace, Lan Qingyue and the rest were clearly not in danger. He frowned slightly and a pensive look appeared on his face. That's right. Suddenly Wang Xian thought of someone. With a thought, he immediately contacted the Divine Emperor of Heaven's formation behind him. Old man, I want to ask you something. He transmitted his voice. I know what you want to ask. The Black Hole of Energy Tide that you mentioned was formed from a huge battle. At the end of the Black Hole of Energy Tide is a battlefield ruins. The universe is not infinite. The area that you guys are in is a small, remote place. At the end of the Black Hole is another bright land. Although there are no tens of thousands of races fighting at the center of the universe, it is still considered a holy land. The Tianqing God Emperor said. Bright land? Wang Xian raised his eyebrows slightly. For someone like you, you are just a small god. The Eternal God Lord is considered an expert. The Immortal God King is in charge of the area and the Void God Emperor is invincible. However, to pass through the energy black hole, an ordinary God Master would find it hard to do. One would need to comprehend at least 5 or 6 laws to pass through. Tianqing God Emperor said indifferently. To reach the God Master level, one would need to comprehend laws, like fire. The first level of the flame law was the true fire, the second level was the true fire, the third level was the true fire, and so on. After comprehending the fire laws, one could evolve one's offensive techniques from the fire laws. Wang Xian frowned slightly, and his eyes flickered. Kid, if you take me as your master, I can immediately bring you through the black hole of the tide to find your wife. The God of Heaven's formation continued. You said that the God of Void is invincible in this world, so why are you dead? Wang Xian asked with a twinkle in his eyes. If I didn't misjudge the person? The Celestial Emperor of Heaven's formation suddenly fell silent for a moment before he spoke slowly with a heavy tone. The moment he finished his words, he fell into silence again. Wang Xian stood in the Dragon King's hall with a look of contemplation and hesitation on his face. Let's improve first. As for the rest, we'll talk about it when I'm stronger. Wang Xian mumbled to himself. The matters of the Thunder God Lord, Qingyue Lingxiu and the rest, as well as the matter of the Tianqing Celestial Emperor behind him, would be discussed in the future. Chapter 2220. 22,220 points. Twin Fox God Lord has fallen. The first God Lord was killed. The eternal twin foxes have been destroyed. The 3 God Lords of the Dragon Palace have suppressed the boundless star field. Thunder God Lord has escaped. The entire eternal thunderclap has submitted. The Dragon Palace is the leader of the northern region. The Dragon Palace is simply too heaven-defying now. Together with the eternal divine leaf, they almost rule the entire boundless star field. The Dragon King hasn't reached the God Lord realm yet, but he can control 3 God Lord level underlings. It's absolutely terrifying. 2 days later, the news of the death of the Twin Fox God Lord and the annihilation of the eternal Twin Fox spread like wildfire throughout the boundless star field. When everyone received the news, their faces were filled with shock. Countless people were shocked by the terrifying rise of the Dragon Palace. Even some God-level experts were filled with shock and awe. They could even kill the eternal God Lord. One could imagine how terrifying the Dragon Palace was. Everyone was talking about the Dragon Palace and the Dragon King. Many people were stunned and speechless at the same time when they heard about the Thunder God Lord. The overlord of a region had started his own escape. The entire boundless star field was boiling because of the Dragon Palace's strength. On the 3rd day, all the resources of the eternal twin foxes and eternal shocking thunder were sent to the Dragon Palace. The entire Dragon Palace had obtained a terrifying amount of resources. On the 4th day, the 2 God Lords of the eternal 7 stars and eternal wind world ordered their subordinates to send many congratulatory gifts to the Dragon Palace. When this news spread out, it shocked countless people. The actions of the eternal 7 stars and eternal wind world were undoubtedly to express their goodwill. This was something that had never happened before. The situation where the 5 masters were divided had been completely broken. At this moment, in the Dragon King's hall of the Dragon Palace, a mighty roar was heard. Wang Xian's terrifying body was exuding endless majesty. Feeling the power coming from his body, Wang Xian revealed a smile. Name, Wang Xian. Race, Yin-Yang 5 Elements Divine Dragon, Mandragon Unity. Level, 6 Wisps of Divine Fire, 5th Change of the Divine Dragon Transformation. Divine Crystal, 7,735. 4 billion/500 billion. Supernatural ability, Rule the Water Tribe below one's level. Devour living things to extract divine crystals. Control of the 5 elements. Cultivation method, Divine Dragon Transformation. Supernatural ability, Soul Absorbing, Spirit Attaching, Yin-Yang 5 Elements Dragon Eyes. Aspect, 5 Elements Grinding, Dragon Kingdom in the palm, Dragon Head under the heavens, Dragon Body of 10,000 miles, Yin-Yang Dual Polarity, Yin-Yang 5 Elements Arms Bowl, Divine Dragon Tail Swing. Divine Kingdom, Dragon Palace. Dragon Palace, Level 6. Dragon Palace Member, 53,633. His mind moved as he looked at his attributes. 6 Wisps of Divine Fire. He had already lit 6 Wisps of Divine Fire. In just a few days, Wang Xian had lit 2 Wisps of Divine Fire. Although he needed a lot of resources to light up the Divine Fire, the resources of the Eternal Twin Foxes and a small portion of the resources of Eternal Thunderclap allowed him to light up 2 Wisps of Divine Fire. It was not too surprising. Feeling the vast power coming from his entire body, Wang Xian felt that if he wanted to kill the god of Twin Foxes, he would need at most 1 minute. Although Wang Xian did not comprehend any laws, the power of 7 attributes was comparable to the attack of laws. This is such a terrifying power. Didn't this kid only ignite 6 wisps of divine fire? Even with the augmentation of the 5 elements energy, it is impossible for him to be this terrifying. That's not right. This kid has 7 attributes, light and darkness. He even managed to control the luster. Damn, what kind of monster is this? How is this possible? His body and the dragon palace. This is clearly the body of a dragon. Could it be that he has obtained the inheritance of the divine dragon? Isn't the divine dragon clan exterminated? At this moment, the divine emperor of heaven's formation, who was behind Wang Xian, felt the might of Wang Xian and was dumbfounded. He was a divine emperor who had lived for tens of millions of years. This was the first time he was so shocked. Not to mention that he had never seen or heard of the 7 attributes in the legends. There was also that terrifying body of a dragon. This was the first time he had seen Wang Xian transform into the body of a divine dragon since he woke up. This made him feel incredulous. According to the records, the divine dragon tribe had perished together with the bug tribe hundreds of millions of years ago. There had been no trace of the divine dragon for hundreds of millions of years. Feeling the terror of the body of the divine dragon, his face was filled with astonishment. This kid must have obtained the inheritance of the divine dragon. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so heaven-defying. No wonder he has no interest in becoming my master. He even ignored it. He must have obtained the complete inheritance of the divine dragon clan. The divine emperor of Tiancheng was visibly moved. His soul was trembling non-stop. If he agrees, it will be a piece of cake for him to avenge himself in the future. He can even resurrect me then. He mumbled to himself. A fiery expression appeared on his face. His eyes were flickering. Phew! Wang Xian took a deep breath as his eyes sparkled. In the current boundless galaxy, no one had comprehended 2 laws. His strength could be said to be invincible in the entire boundless galaxy. Congratulations, Dragon King. Prime Minister Gue and the rest walked over from the side and bowed respectfully. Is there any news about the Lord of Thunderbolt? Wang Xian nodded his head and asked Prime Minister Gue. Dragon King, there is no news about the Lord of Thunderclap. He should be hiding somewhere right now. He might not come out for a few years or even decades. Prime Minister Gue shook his head. As an eternal lord with a lifespan of 1,000,000 years, a few years or decades was very short. There was a high possibility that the Lord of Thunderclap would hide in the void for a few decades. It was even harder for the Dragon Palace to find him than ascending to the heavens. Wang Xian frowned slightly and his expression was a little ugly. Now that Qing Yu and Ling Xiu had no idea where he was due to his whereabouts, he had to take revenge. As long as he didn't kill the Thunder God Lord, he wouldn't be satisfied. He couldn't afford to wait for a few decades. Give the order. Order all the forces in the boundless galaxy to find the whereabouts of the Thunder God Lord. Wang Xian said to Prime Minister Gue calmly. It's the Dragon King. Prime Minister Gue nodded. His body moved and he immediately flew out to give the order. Wang Xian sat in the Dragon Palace and waited quietly. A day later, a piece of news was sent out from the Dragon Palace. The news spread throughout the entire boundless galaxy at a terrifying speed. The Dragon King ordered all the forces in the boundless galaxy to search for the Lord of Thunderclap. This news caused the entire boundless star field to boil. The Dragon King is so powerful. He actually ordered all the forces to search for the Thunder God Lord. They even ordered the Eternal 7 Stars and Eternal Wind Expanse? This is too powerful. Is the Dragon King going to order the entire boundless star field? He doesn't care about the Eternal Wind Expanse and the Eternal 7 Stars at all. Everyone was stunned. The Dragon King's order was too strong. When the news reached the Eternal Wind Universe and the Eternal 7 Stars, the disciples of the 2 forces didn't look good. They weren't subordinates of the Dragon Palace, so why should they listen to the Dragon Palace's orders? If they really listened to the Dragon Palace's orders, wouldn't they admit that they were subordinates of the Dragon Palace? Chapter 2221 2221 2221 Array Formation. Shaman. When the Dragon King's order came out, the Eternal 7 Stars and Eternal Wind World ignored it. However, they ignored it. The other forces did not dare to resist. They were really afraid that a God Lord level expert from the Dragon Palace would come and directly suppress them. Although the other forces were somewhat unwilling, they still sent their disciples to perfunctorily search for the whereabouts of the Thunder God Lord. It was impossible for a God Lord to escape and be found. The entire boundless star field became lively, and the story of the Dragon King was quickly spread. Later, when everyone learned that the Dragon Palace had come from the faraway Vipralopa land, they were even more surprised. Half a month later, the entire Dragon Palace moved to the Boundless Sea in the central area. The Dragon Palace was stationed in the Boundless Sea, intimidating everyone. During the half a month, the Dragon Palace was surging with a vast aura every day. After destroying the Eternal Twin Foxes and obtaining the corpse of the Eternal God Lord along with the corpses of more than 20 Peak God Realm experts, the members of the Dragon Palace had received a huge increase. Just the combat strength of Peak God Realm members had increased by 11. Even though Ao Xingmu did not comprehend any laws, he still possessed the combat strength of a God Lord. After this period of time, the dark blazing demonic dragon's strength had also increased by leaps and bounds. In the past, he did not have the divine dragon transformation technique, so he could only fight one level higher. Now, with time, his strength had already surpassed that of a God Lord who had comprehended a single law. He could almost fight against a God Lord who had comprehended 2 laws. With time, they would only become stronger and stronger. However, there was still no information about the God Lord of Thunderclap in the past 10 to 20 days. The boundless galaxy was huge. It was too difficult to find a person, especially a God Lord. During this period of time, Wang Xian brought Hu Yen to the Dragon Palace. This made the girls dumbfounded. Guan Shuqing and the rest of the girls almost beat him up. Considering that Lan Qingyue, Sun Lingxiu, and the rest were nowhere to be seen, and that Wang Xian was rather exhausted during this period of time, they didn't bother with him. They could only accept it. Although Hu Yen was also a little stunned, she wasn't too surprised. In this world, there were more than a dozen or even dozens of powerhouses. She could accept it more easily than Guan Shuqing and the rest of the girls. "Old man, come out. Let's discuss." On this day, Wang Xian sat on the dragon throne and transmitted his voice to the God of Heaven's formation. "Hee, young friend, when are you looking for me?" Just as Wang Xian finished his sentence, a shadow slowly appeared in front of him. During this period of time, the God of Heaven's formation was waiting for Wang Xian to look for him. He also knew that Wang Xian would definitely look for him. "Do you have any way to find the God of Shocking Thunder? Also, what's the situation at the bright land over at the energy tide black hole?" Wang Xian really wanted to ask him something. Firstly, Wang Xian wanted to capture the God of Shocking Thunder and kill him. Secondly, he wanted to understand the bright land on the other side of the black hole. Now that Qingyue and Lingxiu had passed through the black hole, he wanted to look for them in the future. Furthermore, when the Dragon Palace had reached a certain stage of development, he had to step into a stronger region to seek development. There are naturally ways to do so. My Tao of formations is to seize the fortunes of the world. Trapping formations, killing formations, illusion formations, defense, curses, and looking for people. Tiancheng God Emperor raised his head slightly and said proudly, "Of course, my young friend, you may have looked down on my Tao of formations since you have obtained the Divine Dragon's inheritance. However, when you have cultivated your formations to the pinnacle of the Shaman realm, you can still stand at the peak of the universe and not be any weaker than the Divine Dragon." Following that, the Tiancheng Celestial Emperor continued to speak. "Shaman." Wang Xian was slightly taken aback. He had heard of such experts from the Divine Dragon's inheritance. They were not of the same race but a heaven-defying cultivation path. That's right, it's the shaman. When the shaman word is separated, the human word is located at the center. It is a lever that supports the world. It represents that I will stand at the peak of the universe. When one cultivates the Tao of formations to the peak, he will carve the heaven and earth great formation into his body. He will be invulnerable to all kinds of spells. His body will bear the weight of the world and possess the power to destroy the world. Sky Formation God Emperor said with some yearning. Back then, it was because I obtained a heaven and earth great formation and was prepared to inject it into my body to increase my strength. I was harmed by those damn fellows. He growled with some hatred. If you want to learn, I will teach you everything. Very soon, the god of heaven's formation adjusted his emotions and said with a smile, "Oh, you are so kind?" Wang Xian looked at him in surprise. "My young friend, I'm afraid you have some misunderstanding about me. Back then, when I just woke up, I did want to possess your body. However, this was only because I had no other choice. My young friend, you should be very clear about my current situation. With your current strength, you can even make my soul dissipate. I taught you the array formation because I hope that when you become stronger in the future, you can help me take revenge. You can create a body for me and help me revive." The Divine Emperor of Heaven's formation felt a little bitter. At the same time, he spoke with some anticipation. Wang Xian had already become his last lifeline. He didn't dare to play any tricks. Moreover, if he wasn't forced to do so, he wouldn't have done such things. He, who was determined to walk the path of witchcraft, had the sky above his head and his feet on the ground. He was above board and above board. "All right." Wang Xian stared at him and nodded his head faintly. With the current state of the Celestial Emperor of Heaven's formation, he didn't have the ability to play any tricks. Even if he were to build a body for him in the future, his strength might have already reached the 7 transformations of the Divine Dragon realm by then. By then, even if he had any bad thoughts, he would be able to easily suppress him. "I believe in you, my young friend. I will definitely impart the Tao of formations to you without holding anything back." The Tiansheng Celestial Emperor revealed an excited expression and said immediately, "All right, let's teach some of my subordinates from the Dragon Palace along the way." Wang Xian had a thought and immediately got Prime Minister Jiui to call the Fire Hammer clan over. To forge a divine weapon, one needed to draw a formation. Now, it was extremely difficult for the Fire Hammer clan to forge a divine weapon. The main reason was the lack of a formation. In the boundless galaxy, there were very few real formation masters. Most of them would set up some simple formations. There wasn't a single formation that could enter one's body. Whatever. The Celestial Emperor of Heaven's formations smiled bitterly when he heard Wang Xian's words. Back then, he wouldn't agree even if someone wanted him to teach them a thing or two. But now, he was teaching a group of people. He shook his head slightly and felt a little helpless. Soon, Wang Xian brought the Celestial Emperor of Heaven's formation to the dragon field. Not bad, not bad. As expected of the Divine Dragon clan. They actually have such a heaven and earth formation that can improve one's comprehension ability. Such a formation is extremely rare and precious. Upon arriving at the dragon field, the Divine Emperor of Heaven's formation looked around and was slightly surprised. Divine Emperor of Heaven's formation, thank you for your guidance. Wang Xian smiled at him and said, "All right." The Divine Emperor of Heaven's formation nodded and immediately imparted the Tao of formations. Chapter 2222 2222 2222 Formation to God Lord level. The formation is built according to the universe's natural laws. The formation is divided into several stages. I'll only tell you about the stages I've come into contact with. The first stage is to simulate the laws. This is for God-level warriors, simulating the laws of heaven and earth, connecting heaven and earth. The second stage is to establish the laws. This is for eternal God Lord level warriors, establishing the laws of heaven and earth, controlling heaven and earth. The third stage is the combination of laws. This is for the undying God King level warriors. The combination of laws can change heaven and earth. The fourth stage is the stage I've touched before, the fusion of laws. The power will increase by 10 times. Within the dragon field, Tianqin God Emperor introduced to the 4,000 members of the Dragon Palace and Fire Hammer clan. The training of arrays, the higher one goes, the harder it is. However, array masters have the ability to fight above their level. It's normal to fight above their level. Back then I was able to fight above 2 levels. It is said that the legendary shaman realm is able to surpass 3 to 4 levels. The god of formation looked at Wang Xian. Yes. Wang Xian nodded his head. He had some understanding of this. However, to reach the shaman realm, the difficulty was at least 10 to 100 times more difficult than cultivating to the 9th transformation of the divine dragon realm. Among the top races in the universe, they relied on their bloodline and physique. However, the likes of the Magi relied on the world treasures, comprehension, and luck. There were very few records of the Magi in the divine dragon inheritance. It seemed like there were only 12 Magi who were comparable to the ancient god-feeding Kuan master. Of course, the Magi did indeed have the strength to fight against the divine dragon. Little friend, I'll first teach you the simulation laws. In the cultivation of array masters, if you want to go far, most of them only cultivate spiritual chi and not attributes. Once you cultivate the attributes, you can only set up an array of one attribute. When you cultivate spiritual energy, you can use it to trigger other attributes. The good thing is that you can set up any attribute array. The bad thing is that your attack power is weak and you have to rely on the array. An array master had a special way of cultivation. Such a way of cultivation was not found in the boundless galaxy. This was also the first time Wang Xian heard of it. Instead of cultivating attributes, one would only absorb spiritual energy and use it to trigger the 9 attributes of heaven and earth. The disadvantage was, as the celestial emperor of heaven's formation had said, one's attack power was extremely weak. One might not even be a match for a peak stage demigod even if one ignited the divine fire. It was just that exaggerated. Of course, if one were to use formations, formation masters could fight against opponents of a higher level. There is also a huge advantage to elemental formation masters. That is, their cultivation speed is fast. The speed of their comprehension of the simulated laws is 10 times faster than that of non-elemental formation masters, or even more. My friend, you have 7 attributes. You are a natural-born array master. The lack of wind and lightning is not a big deal. I have quite a number of 5 elemental array formations here. If you cultivate them, you will definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Tian Jingzi stared at Wang Xian with a slight sigh. This was also the main reason why he wanted to take Wang Xian in as his disciple when he found out that Wang Xian possessed the 5 elemental attributes. If one person controlled the 5 elements, it would be fine even if he didn't want a ray of light and dark wind and lightning from the array formation. With the 5 elements, if he had a heaven and earth formation, he might be able to step into the shaman realm. Wang Xian smiled faintly. The art of formations is vast. I have only grasped the basics of it even after tens of millions of years. You should be looking for someone now. It's not difficult to find someone. Do you know about the mirage? As long as you have the item on the other party, you can set up the law of the mirage. This is a simulation of a water attribute law. If you can set up this formation, you will be able to investigate the past of this area. The god of formation continued his introduction. Impressive, Mirage. Investigate an area. Wang Xian's eyes were filled with astonishment. Such a method was indeed extremely powerful. Next, I will teach my young friend how to simulate the law. Supporting formations are easier than battle formations. In the next few months, Wang Xian began to learn array formations from the heaven array formation. Array formations were used to simulate the rules of the universe. Once one grasped some of the rules, one could directly set up an array formation for battle. Using spiritual energy to guide various attributes to attack, the more arrays one could control, the stronger one's combat strength would be. As an existence at the level of Void God Emperor, the Heaven Array could control more than 10,000 arrays. As a powerful array master, he had to learn how to explore arrays from the laws of the universe. Arrays could mimic diseases and could directly curse people. By simulating natural disasters, one could directly set up another natural disaster. Of course, The power of all this was related to the strength and consumption of the Array Master. The words, "Don't provoke the Array Master" mentioned by the Heaven Array God Emperor in the Resplendent Land had another point besides their scouting ability. If that Formation Master used all his energy and even his life to curse, even if he was 2 levels higher than this Formation Master, he would still be in great danger. Ding! Congratulations to host for comprehending the mirage of the Water Elemental Formation. Ding! Congratulations to host for comprehending the Darkness Elemental Formation. Your bloodline is connected. Ding! Congratulations to host for comprehending the Sea of Flames. Ding! Congratulations to host for comprehending the Holy Robe of Flames. Following that, the system notifications kept coming in. One by one, the 5 elements and light and darkness formations were under Wang Xian's control. Due to the fact that he possessed the 5 elements origin and light and darkness, coupled with the fact that he already possessed the combat strength of a god who had comprehended the power of 2 laws. The speed of his control was extremely fast. In just a short year, he had completely mastered the first stage of the formation simulation formation. However, battle-type formations were of little value to Wang Xian. In fact, they were of no use to him. That was because he could use the energy in his body to simulate the formation directly. The Formation Master could also set up the formation in advance in the formation compass. He could use it directly during battle. This was much faster than setting up a formation at the last minute. If he set up a sufficient number of formation compasses, he could easily kill those who were a level higher than him. Simulated Water Attribute Law, Mirage. Established Water Attribute Law, Void Memory. 1 month after a year, Wang Xian stood in the Dragon Field. A virtual image of the entire Dragon Palace appeared in the sky. Following that, the vast energy in his body entered the mirage. The entire scene in the mirage began to move slowly. His heart skipped a beat. He injected energy again and the scene in the mirage began to move rapidly. This moving scene was the past. Check the past. This was the first law that Wang Xian was able to establish. The establishment of the law belonged to the second stage of the Formation Master, which corresponded to the level of the Eternal Lord. In addition, it could be said that he had already become an Eternal Lord level Formation Master. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In an instant, Wang Xian felt that his control over the water attribute had increased by a few hundred times. The speed of his cultivation had also increased by a few hundred times. Ha! Wang Xian was stunned for a moment. His eyes were sparkling. The cultivation of an array master is to simulate the laws. To establish the laws. Establishing the laws requires a vast amount of energy. Although I have only ignited 6 wisps of divine fire, due to the conversion of 7 types of elemental energy, I have been able to achieve the level of an eternal God Lord. Although it is just a supporting law, it is still the level of an eternal God Lord. Without the eternal kingdom, Wang Xian was able to advance to the realm of the eternal God Lord, which was the realm of an array master. It could be said that Wang Xian was the only one of his kind. The breakthrough of an array master also improved his control over the water attribute. It also improved his cultivation speed. A hint of a smile appeared in Wang Xian's eyes. In the future, as long as he cultivated in seclusion for 10 years, he would be able to level up even without using any resources. But now, some people are going to die. Very soon, a hint of cold killing intent flashed in Wang Xian's eyes. Chapter 22-23 22-23 2223 Dragon King of the Dragon Palace came to teach Wang Xian a lesson. The main reason why Wang Xian practiced formations was to lock onto the position of the Thunder God Lord. After more than a year, he had achieved some success in the art of formations. It was time for him to claim his life from the Thunder God Lord. Formation, Black Hole. Wang Xian stepped out of the Dragon Palace and pointed his arm into the void in front of him. Streams of energy were injected into the space in front of him. The formation of the black hole was due to the energy. Setting up a black hole formation could be done with any attribute, even if there was no attribute to rely on the spiritual energy. 10 seconds later, a black hole appeared in front of Wang Xian. In order to test it out, he did not use the formation inside the Dragon Palace to travel. But Wang Xian disappeared the moment he stepped in. The black hole set up by the formation was slightly different from the instantaneous movement of the strong ones. The instantaneous movement of the experts required them to sense the position in the distance and move after positioning themselves. As for the black hole, it was heading in a certain direction. The distance of the teleportation was determined by the energy injected into it. This was not fixed and it had to be in a straight line. However, the advantage was that the distance of the black hole was more than 10 times or even dozens of times greater than the instantaneous teleportation of the experts. But when Wang Xian appeared, he had already entered the vast void. He took a look at the starry sky map and continued to construct the formation. 10 seconds later, a black hole appeared in front of him. Wang Xian disappeared again. The Dragon Palace was located in the middle of the boundless sea. It was not too far away from the center of the northern region where the eternal thunderbolts used to be. After more than 10 consecutive black hole teleportation, Wang Xian only used a few minutes to arrive at the void where the Lord of the Thunderbolts had placed the Eternal Kingdom. This speed is really fast. Even the Lord of Eternal God who has comprehended a law is not as fast as this speed. Wang Xian floated in the void and was slightly surprised. His eyes were sparkling as he looked at the thunderclap planet in front of him. The current northern region was completely dominated by the Dragon Palace. I have to confirm one thing first. Wang Xian turned his gaze around and a faint mist was emitted from his body. But he waved his arm rapidly. A black and white pattern slowly appeared in the sky. The pattern was the epitome of this space. Formation Mirage. Wang Xian spat it out gently. Following that, the mirage rapidly solidified. Formation Void Memory. Using the formation Mirage as the foundation, he established the laws and laid down the void memory formation. Wang Xian's heart stirred as he injected energy into the picture in front of him. The picture in the picture started to revolve and started to reverse. Buzz, buzz, buzz. With the continuous injection of energy, the picture started to reverse at an even faster speed. Soon, an eternal kingdom appeared in the picture. That was a year ago. Wang Xian's heart skipped a beat as he stared at it intently. From the departure of the eternal kingdom to its gradual return. At this moment, the scene from more than a year ago was displayed on the screen. But all of a sudden, Wang Xian pointed his finger at the void and the scene was locked. He frowned slightly as he stared at the earthy yellow stone. He pointed his finger and the scene continued to rewind. But he waved his arm towards the sky and a figure appeared in the void above. There were 7 rocks floating above the vast figure. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes slightly and was filled with coldness. The scene continued to rewind and the entire void was calm. So the one who tipped off the others was the 7-star Divine Lord of the Eternal 7 Stars. A hint of killing intent flashed in Wang Xian's eyes. With a move of his hand, a drop of blood appeared in his hand. This drop of blood came from the descendant of the Thunder God Lord. Formation, Blood Connection. Wang Xian continued to set up formation after formation in the void and placed this drop of blood in the center. Wang Xian waved the mirage and landed directly in the formation with blood connection. Formation, Mirror Image. He shouted softly and the 2 formations reflected each other. An image of the Eternal Kingdom appeared. Found it. Wang Xian sensed the information transmitted from his bloodline connection. Looking at the mirror image, a cold expression appeared on his face. You hid so far away. Wang Xian sensed the location where the Thunder God Lord was hiding. His eyes were filled with killing intent. I'll deal with you after I get rid of the 7 stars first. He mumbled as he looked at the thunder star in front of him and flew straight into the ocean. After entering the Dragon Palace of the ocean, Wang Xian was teleported directly into the Dragon Palace of the Boundless Galaxy through the formation. Prime Minister Gui, inform Eternal Wind Expanse and the Eternal Seven Stars of the Southern region immediately. Tomorrow, our Dragon Palace will pay a visit. Wang Xian returned to the Dragon Palace and spoke to Prime Minister Gui immediately. Oh, Dragon King, pay a visit to the Eternal Wind Expanse and the Eternal Seven Stars? Prime Minister Gui was a little puzzled. With the current strength of our Dragon Palace, it's time for us to occupy the entire ocean of the boundless galaxy. Wang Xian said to him calmly. It's the Dragon King. Prime Minister Gui immediately nodded his head and replied. Currently, the southern region, the Eternal Seven Stars, and the Eternal Divine Leaves did not occupy the entire boundless galaxy. It was time to occupy the entire ocean of the boundless galaxy. Let's visit the Eternal Wind Field first, then the 7 Eternal Stars. Wang Xian mumbled. What? The Dragon King is going to visit our Eternal Wind Field tomorrow? Very soon, on the main planet of the Eternal Wind Field in the southern region, a group of peak-stage Immortal Realm experts of the Eternal Wind Field gathered together. When they received the news, their faces were filled with shock. The Dragon King is coming to visit us personally? Could it be because of the matter of the Thunder God Lord? We did not help them find the Thunder God Lord. An old man frowned slightly, his face full of solemnity. They had witnessed the strength of the Dragon Palace. After all, a God Lord had fallen in the hands of the Dragon Palace, so they had to be careful. He came with ill intentions, but he told us in advance that he would come to visit us, so he probably won't come to cause trouble on purpose. An old man guessed. The Lord God Lord has found out about this, so he asked us to be ready. Since the Dragon King has come, we will warmly welcome him. An old man in the center stood up and immediately said, Yes. A group of peak-stage Godly Realm experts nodded solemnly. 7 Stars, tomorrow the Dragon King will come to visit Eternal Wind Expanse first. You should come too. At the same time, in the void next to Eternal Wind Expanse main planet, an incomparably huge tornado was rotating, exuding an incomparably terrifying aura. In a palace located in the middle of the tornado, God Lord Huanyu looked at the shadow in the mirror and said indifferently, Okay, Huanyu, I've said that we should unite. Otherwise, it won't be difficult for the Dragon Palace to break us one by one. In the mirror, 7-star God Lord said with a cold face. Okay, when the Dragon King visits tomorrow, it's time for us to announce our alliance. God Lord Feng Huan hesitated for a moment and said indifferently. The Dragon Palace's destruction of a God Lord made them feel jittery. A year ago, the 7-star God Lord had come to him to announce their alliance. But he didn't agree at that time. Now, it seemed like it was time for them to join forces. Their alliance could also make the Dragon Palace worry a little. The two of them joined forces. They believed that even if the other party had 4 God Lords, they could still escape if they couldn't defeat them. Chapter 22-24 22-24 The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace came to give advice. Did you hear? The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace is going to visit the Eternal Wind Universe and the Eternal 7 Stars. What is the Dragon King going to do? Is it because of the Thunder God Lord? The Eternal Wind Universe and the Eternal 7 Stars didn't pay attention to the orders of the Dragon Palace. The news that the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace was going to visit the Eternal Wind Universe and the Eternal 7 Stars soon spread throughout the boundless star field. The big forces in the endless star field paid close attention to the Dragon Palace's current actions. As the strongest force, the Dragon Palace had once killed a God Lord. Any action of the Dragon Palace would attract the attention of all the forces. The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace was going to visit the Eternal Wind Expanse Cosmos and the Eternal 7 Stars, which made many people extremely curious. One day passed very quickly. In the early morning of the next day, roars resounded throughout the ocean in the boundless sea. The boundless sea was an ocean in the void, and the entire ocean was suspended in the void. The depth of the ocean was millions of meters deep. The entire ocean was extremely vast, and the area of the ocean was comparable to hundreds of Earths. There were many aquatic creatures living in the boundless ocean, and it was now the headquarters of the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace was located in the middle of the vast sea, suppressing an area. Today, in the sky above the sea, 9 extremely terrifying wind divine dragons were pulling a throne and roaring into the sky. The 9 wind divine dragons each emitted an aura that was not weaker than the 9 wisps of divine fire. Let's go! Wang Xian sat on the dragon throne while Prime Minister Gui and the rest stood at the side. Behind him, Ao He, the dark blazing demonic dragon, and Ao Xingmu were accompanying him. At the back, there were 20 experts at the peak of the godly state of the Dragon Palace and 2,500 dragon guards. Roar! The wind god dragon roared again and a strong hurricane engulfed everyone. Boom! The 9 wind god dragons brought Wang Xian and the rest towards the direction of the southern region at a terrifying speed. Their speed was even comparable to experts at the peak of the godly state. Wang Xian did not bring too many members of the Dragon Palace, but this was enough. A 7-star lord, please. However, at this moment, on the main planet of Eternal Wind Expanse, an incomparably grand banquet venue was already filled with people. In the middle of the venue, God Lord Wind Expanse, who was dressed in green clothes, smiled and said to the figure in front of him, 7-star God Lord laughed. The two of them sat in the center and began to chat with each other. Today, Eternal Windward announces that we will form an alliance with the Eternal 7 Stars. We will advance and retreat together. Not long after, God Lord Windward stood up and announced loudly. His voice resounded throughout the entire planet. We, the Eternal 7 Stars, form an alliance with Eternal Windward. We will advance and retreat together. The 7 Stars Master also stood up and announced loudly. In the center of the huge square, the disciples of the Eternal 7 Stars and Eternal Wind World watched this scene with sparkling eyes. Today, the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace would come to visit. At this time, they had formed an alliance with the Eternal 7 Stars, and all the disciples could think of the reason. They were afraid that the Dragon Palace would threaten them or order them. The alliance between the two forces was to resist the Dragon Palace. The Eternal 7 Stars are here, and they chose to join forces with the Eternal Wind Universe at this moment. It's obvious that they are here to resist the Dragon Palace. The 3 God Lords of the Dragon Palace joined forces with the East Divine Leaf God Lord to kill the Double Fox God Lord. Now that the 7 Stars God Lord and the Wind Universe God Lord have joined forces, it's still not as good as the Dragon Palace, but it's impossible to destroy them. The 7-star God Lord and Wind Expanse God Lord can also resist the Dragon Palace. After all, if the Dragon Palace really does something, they can contact the Thunder God Lord who is still on the run. The Thunder God Lord will definitely agree when he gets the news. When that time comes, the 3 God Lords will be able to fight the Dragon Palace together. On the planet, some people were filled with shock when they heard the 2 God Lords' announcement. Some of the forces that came to inquire about the news had their eyes twinkling. Roar, roar, roar. At this moment, a vast roar came from the void. Everyone was slightly shocked and quickly looked towards the sky. Hiss, the Dragon King and the others are here. Look, those 9 terrifying creatures, what a powerful force. 9 divine beasts that are comparable to 9 wisps of divine fire god pulling a dragon throne. The Dragon King is so powerful. In the boundless galaxy, most of the people had never seen the Dragon King, nor had they seen the disciples of the Dragon Palace. When they saw the group of members of the Dragon Palace flying over from afar, everyone's expression changed slightly. They were all staring at him closely. Welcome, Dragon King, to the eternal expanse of wind. When the Star Banquet Square came out, the 7-star master heard the roar and looked into the void. He swept his gaze behind Wang Xian and heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the Mountain Master and the Dongfang Divine Leaf Master did not follow them. Since the two masters did not follow them, there was nothing for them to be afraid of. Hee hee, welcome Dragon King. What a coincidence. A few days ago, Feng Huan and I agreed to meet up today. I didn't expect you to come too, Dragon King. I heard that the Dragon King is going to our Eternal 7 Stars as well. It just so happens that we are going together this time. The 7 Stars Lord also stood up and laughed loudly. He cupped his hands toward Wang Xian who was in the void. The 7 Stars Lord is here. That's great. Wang Xian looked over. His eyes were sparkling. The 9 divine wind dragons landed on the empty space in the middle. Wang Xian flew down from above. Please take a seat, Dragon King. May I know why you have come all the way here? Godlord Feng Huan looked at Wang Xian and asked with a smile on his face. It's nothing major. The main reason for my visit is that I need Eternal Wind Huan's approval on one matter. Wang Xian stood in the middle of the square and did not take a step forward. Instead, he stood there and spoke quietly. When the god of wind expanse saw Wang Xian in such a state, his pupils contracted slightly. The expressions of the surrounding experts and disciples of the Eternal Wind Expanse and the Eternal 7 Stars changed slightly as they looked at Wang Xian in unison. May I know what is the matter, Dragon King? The god of wind expanse frowned slightly as he asked. I want the oceans of all the life planets in the southern region. The Dragon Palace will control the oceans of all the life planets. Wang Xian spoke slowly. As soon as he finished speaking, God Lord Wind Expanse's expression turned ugly instantly. The oceans of the life planets. The oceans of every life planet would take up 2/3, 1/2, or at least 1/3 of the entire planet. Now, Wang Xian was asking for all the oceans. It was equivalent to asking for more than half of the territories of the southern region. Dragon King, aren't you asking for too much of the oceans of all the life planets? How can Eternal Wind World agree to such conditions? I know that your Dragon Palace is more powerful, but you can't bully people like this. God Lord Windworld's face was solemn as he growled at Wang Xian. If that's the case, God Lord Windworld, I, the Dragon King, will experience your strength. Wang Xian smiled faintly and walked forward slowly with his eyes locked onto him. Chapter 22-25 22-25 The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace came to teach him a lesson. Upon hearing Wang Xian's words and seeing him take a few steps forward, God Lord Feng Huan and everyone around him stared at Wang Xian in astonishment. Even the 7 Stars God Lord frowned slightly as his eyes sparkled. Let's see the strength of our God Lord Feng Huan. Hasn't the Dragon King not reached the level of a God Lord yet? The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace doesn't seem to be at the level of a God Lord yet. Is he challenging the Lord Feng Huan now? Some of the experts stared at Wang Xian and whispered, Dragon King, are you joking? Are you trying to see my strength? The Lord Feng Huan sized up Wang Xian from head to toe. He was certain that the Dragon King had yet to become the eternal God Lord. Dragon King, aren't you going a little overboard to want the oceans of all the life planets? I'm sure you know the size of the oceans on every planet. Eternal Wind and Eternal 7 Stars have never provoked you before. Don't go too far. At the side, the 7 Stars Lord said to Wang Xian with a cold expression. The Dragon Palace was indeed very strong. They were no match for them, but they were not afraid either. If they were really forced into a corner, the entire Dragon Palace would have to pay a terrible price. Cut the crap and attack. Wang Xian stared at the 7 Stars Lord and said calmly. All right. Dragon King, I, Feng Huan, would like to see the strength of your Dragon King. If you can defeat me, I, Feng Huan, will give all the oceans to your Dragon Palace. When the Feng Huan Lord heard Wang Xian's somewhat contemptuous words, a hint of anger flashed across his eyes. If the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace also possessed the combat strength of a lord, then the entire Dragon Palace would be able to mobilize 5 lords. With 5 god-level masters, even if he joined forces with the Eternal 7 Stars, he would not be able to defend against the Dragon Palace. Let's go! God Lord Fenghuan's eyes were filled with a cold glint. He moved his body and flew straight into the void. But Wang Xian moved his body and flew over instantly. His body was surrounded by the yin and yang poles. Take this. Wang Xian said indifferently. His entire arm instantly turned into a dragon claw. The energy of the 5 elements was contained within it as it attacked God Lord Fenghuan. This power. Sensing Wang Xian's attack, God Lord Fenghuan's expression sank. This power was definitely at the level of a god lord. Damn it, this is troublesome. His expression changed slightly. We can't lose, or else. A terrifying tornado instantly condensed around him. With him as the center, the tornado instantly swept towards Wang Xian. Rip. Wang Xian waved his gigantic dragon claws and tore at the terrifying tornado. The grayish destructive energy of the 5 elements instantly tore a hole in the tornado. What? God Lord Fenghuan's expression changed. The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace also has the strength of a god lord. When the 7 Stars God Lord saw this scene, his expression changed drastically. A hint of fear could be seen in his eyes. Not good, that Dragon King also has the strength of a master god. Oh my god, the Dragon King is also a master god, and there are 4 in the Dragon Palace alone, and with the Divine Leaf Master's words. At this moment, all the experts of Eternal Wind Expanse and the 7-Star Eternal changed their faces. The Dragon Palace was becoming more and more terrifying. The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace is fighting with our Master God. The Dragon King is fighting with God Lord Fenghuan. What happened? On the entire planet, everyone's expression changed drastically when they saw the sudden rumbling sound coming from the void. The Dragon King was fighting with God Lord Fenghuan. The Dragon King also possessed the strength of a god lord. Then, everyone raised their heads in shock and looked in awe. At this moment, Wang Xian moved and appeared in front of God Lord Fenghuan in an instant. His terrifying dragon claws tore at him once again. What a fast speed! God Lord Fenghuan's face was filled with a solemn expression when he saw Wang Xian's speed. Space storm. His body shook and 2 gigantic wind wings appeared behind his back. With the flapping of the wind wings, a violent storm ocean attacked Wang Xian. Yin and Yang extremes, seal. Wang Xian waved his arm and Taiji patterns slowly appeared around him. Following that, a huge Taiji diagram appeared around the god of wind expanse. The Taiji diagram revolved and completely surrounded the surrounding area of more than 10,000 kilometers. This is... Below, everyone looked at the Taiji diagram that appeared out of thin air. Their faces were filled with shock. Let's lose. Wang Xian stared at the god of wind expanse. With a move of his body, his dragon claws emitted a grayish energy as he attacked the god of wind expanse once again. He clearly hasn't comprehended any laws. How could he have such a terrifying attack power? God Lord Fenghuan's expression changed. Looking at the dragon claws that were attacking him again, he gritted his teeth. Laws, 1,000 miles of wind. His entire body was covered by a terrifying sharp light. A dazzling wind blade appeared. A green light flashed and attacked Wang Xian. Bang! 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 Wang Xian completely ignored God Lord Fenghuan's attack. His dragon claws continued to claw forward. The attack from Fenghuan landed on the Taiji diagram in front of him and produced a terrifying vibration sound. The terrifying collision sound could be heard clearly by the surrounding planets. This is bad. However, God Lord Fenghuan's heart sank at this moment. His pupils revealed a look of fear. He flapped the wind wings on his back and hurriedly fled to the side. Voila! At this moment, The Taiji diagram floating around him was like a piece of cloth, directly wrapping around him. "Break for me!" God Lord Wind Expanse waved his arm, and terrifying wind blades slashed at the Taiji diagram. Ping ping ping. However, what frightened him was that all of his attacks could not break through the Taiji diagram's defense. Whoosh! In the next moment, the terrifying dragon claw that was tens of thousands of meters in size went straight for him. It contained an energy that made him feel despair. "I admit defeat," he quickly shouted in horror. Bang! However, there was no fluctuation on Wang Xian's face. The dragon claw was like a slap on an ant as it landed on his body. In an instant, the god of wind expanse spat out a large amount of blood. His face turned pale. He could feel a destructive energy entering his body and extinguishing his life force. His entire body fell heavily onto the ground. Boom! There was a loud vibration. Everyone could feel the entire planet trembling. God Lord Fenghuan's body was directly hit into the planet, sinking at least 10,000 meters deep. In the middle of the banquet square, there was a huge pit. Hiss! Everyone around sucked in a breath of cold air. Their faces were filled with shock as they looked at the deep pit, their bodies trembling. Their God Lord, who had stood tall in the southern domain for hundreds of thousands of years, had been easily defeated by the Dragon King. Chapter 2226. 2226 2226 Dragon King of the Dragon Palace is here to teach for. Gulp. Wang Xian floated in the air and looked down. His face was filled with pride. He flew down step by step and stared at the huge pit. In the square, everyone couldn't help but gulp. Their faces were filled with shock. The Dragon King's strength was so strong. Such a Dragon King, such a Dragon Palace, who would be able to defeat him? Lord God. The bodies of some peak-stage immortal-level experts of Eternal Wind Expanse trembled. They looked at Wang Xian in horror and hurriedly flew into the deep pit. Cough cough. At this moment, the God Lord of Eternal Wind Expanse, who was in an extremely sorry state and had no color on his face, slowly crawled out of the deep pit. When the group of Eternal Wind Expanse masters saw the God of Wind Expanse in such a state, they hurriedly flew over to support him. Cough cough. The God of Wind Expanse, who was extremely weak, could not help but cough again. He spat out a huge mouthful of blood. He raised his head and stared at Wang Xian with a face full of fear. His eyes were filled with fear. He had a strong feeling that if the Dragon King wanted to kill him, it would be a piece of cake. His eternal divine kingdom was right beside him. Even if he were to enter the eternal divine kingdom, he wouldn't be able to escape. Dragon King, I admit defeat. He was a little frightened and his body trembled slightly. Don't you think it's a little too late? Wang Xian stared at him indifferently. His face was filled with a cold expression. Previously, he had asked the ocean of all the life planets in Eternal Wind Expanse to disagree. Now, it was already too late to agree. Then, Dragon King, what do you want me to do? The God of Wind Expanse clenched his teeth, clenched his fists, and roared weakly. All the oceans, plus all the resources of your Eternal Wind Expanse. Wang Xian said faintly. Dragon King, don't go too far. The God of Wind Expanse's expression changed drastically when he heard his words. He spoke with some agitation. The expressions of all the experts around Eternal Wind Huanyu also changed greatly, and their eyes revealed anger. Who? Dragon King, we admit that your Dragon Palace's strength is very strong, but now you want all of our resources. Isn't that too much? At this time, the seven-star God Lord who stood at the side took a deep breath. His expression was uncertain. He did not expect the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace to be so powerful. Even the God of Wind Expanse was defeated so easily. What was his strength? He had comprehended the second law. Oh! Upon hearing his words, Wang Xian looked at the God of Seven Stars and narrowed his eyes slightly. What I want is different from your eternal seven stars. He said indifferently. Huh. The Seven Stars Lord was slightly taken aback. Ao Xingmu, Ao Crab, and Enlai. Wang Xian shouted softly. It's the Dragon King. Boom, boom, boom. In the next moment, Ao Xingmu, Ao Crab, and the rest locked onto the Seven Stars Lord without any hesitation. At the same time, a vast and mighty force was emitted from their bodies. A terrifying pressure spread across a radius of hundreds of millions of kilometers. The expressions of everyone in the surroundings and even the entire planet changed drastically. They felt as if the sky was collapsing. Even the powerhouses at the peak of the godly state were kneeling down with a face full of fear and shock. Dragon Palace. There's one more god-level existence in the Dragon Palace. There's one more. All the powerhouses stared at Ao Xingmu and Wang Xian with a face full of shock. At this moment, they had no will to fight back against the Dragon Palace. The Dragon King, along with the 3 divine masters beside him, and the 4 of them. This was not counting the Dragon King's little brother, Divine Master Shan Yu. The Divine Leaf Divine Master who had a good relationship with him. The 6 divine masters had to kneel before the Dragon King even if it was the Thunder God Master and the Double Fox Divine Master who were resurrected. Is this the full power of the Dragon Palace? The experts at the peak of the godly state were trembling, and their faces were full of shock. Who could fight against the Dragon Palace? Who could fight against the Dragon King? We, Eternal Wind Expanse, are willing to submit to the Dragon King. Sensing the power of Ao Xing, Mu Ao Xie, and the others, God Lord Wind Expanse's face changed drastically. He lowered his head and said softly, We, the Eternal 7 Stars, also submit. We also submit. The God of 7 Stars swept his gaze across Ao Xingmu and the others. His eyes were filled with astonishment as he spoke loudly. He. Wang Xian stared at the God of 7 Stars with a mocking expression on his face. God of 7 Stars, isn't it a little too late to submit now? He asked faintly. The 7 Stars Lord was slightly stunned. He raised his head with some doubt. Back then, you informed the Thunder Lord. Do you think I don't know? I will let them off the Eternal Wind World. However, when you, the 7 Stars of Eternity, informed the Thunder Lord of the Eternal Wind World, the outcome was already decided. Wang Xian stared at him and said faintly. But as soon as Wang Xian's words were spoken, Ao Xing, Wood Ao, Ao Cow, and Lai, and the rest had completely locked onto him. The 3 of them instantly surrounded him. What? Upon hearing Wang Xian's words, the 7 Stars Lord's expression changed. The expressions of all the experts in the entire Eternal 7 Stars also changed. A look of fear slowly appeared in their eyes. When the Lord of Wind Expanse saw this scene, his expression also changed slightly. His body could not help but take a few steps back. It was obvious that the Dragon King wanted to destroy the 7 Stars God Lord and the Eternal 7 Stars. No, Dragon King, I didn't inform you. The 7 Stars God Lord's expression changed and he immediately shouted. You didn't? Wang Xian stared at him and smiled contemptuously. The surrounding energy began to gather. Ao Qitian, Ao Crab, and Enlai were ready to launch a fatal attack at any time. When the God of 7 Stars saw Wang Xian staring at him mockingly, his expression kept changing. How? How did you know? How did you know? In the end, he could not help but growl and question Wang Xian. How can a dead man have so many questions? Wang Xian said indifferently. The God of 7 Stars' pupils constricted and his expression was extremely ugly. He quickly looked at God Lord Feng Huan who was beside him. Wind Expanse, advance and retreat together. If I am killed, you will not have a good life in the future. He immediately stared at the God of Wind Expanse and shouted sternly. Ha! Wang Xian heard his words and looked at the God of Wind Expanse. Cough, cough. The God of Wind Expanse could not help but cough when he saw Wang Xian staring at him. 7 stars, you did not say that you once harmed the Dragon King. Do not involve us, Eternal Wind Expanse, in this matter. We, Eternal Wind Expanse, will respect the Dragon Palace and the Dragon King in the future. God Lord Wind Expanse stared at the 7-star God Lord and spoke righteously. Dragon King, although I'm injured now, if you want me to help, I can do it too. After he finished speaking, he looked at Wang Xian and spoke with a solemn expression. Everyone around was stunned when they heard God Lord Wind Expanse's words. Is he loyal? He is a little shameless. Chapter 22-27 22-27 Boundless Dragon Palace as King 1. God Lord Huan Yu's submission and loyalty shocked everyone. Especially God Lord Huan Yu's stern expression, which indicated that he could fight for the Dragon King, made everyone's mouths twitch. Eternal Wind World's experts and disciples couldn't help but lower their heads. This wasn't the God Lord they knew. But Eternal Wind World's experts and disciples also knew that with the current strength of the Dragon Palace's Dragon King and the others, even if they joined forces with the Eternal 7 Stars, they wouldn't be a match for him. Even if the final outcome was the best, their Eternal Wind World and the Eternal 7 Stars would still be destroyed. And their Lord God would be reduced to the same level as the Thunder God Lord. Even if the outcome was almost the same, their Lord God might die. The Dragon King's strength was too terrifying. He had severely injured their Lord God in just a minute. No one could withstand such an existence. God Lord Huan Yu's submission actually made all the experts and disciples of Eternal Wind World slightly sigh in relief. As for the Eternal 7 Stars who had just shook hands and conversed with each other, forget it. Who asked you to want to harm the Dragon King? You. When the 7 Stars Master heard God Lord Feng Huan's words, his face revealed an extremely furious expression. He extended his hand and pointed at God Lord Feng Huan in excitement. His body was trembling slightly. They had just joined forces to advance and retreat. Now he turned around and slashed. He stared at God Lord Feng Huan and swept his gaze across Wang Xian and the rest. He clenched his fists tightly. Hiss! The bodies of all the experts from the Eternal 7 Stars were trembling slightly. At this moment, their faces were filled with fear. There were currently 4 Divine Masters from the Dragon Palace, Eternal Wind Expanse, Mountain God Lord, Divine Leaf God Lord, and 6 Divine Masters. How could 6 Divine Masters fight against one of their Eternal 7 Stars? Dragon King, we, the Eternal 7 Stars, are willing to submit. We. The 7 Stars Lord's body was trembling slightly, and his eyes were filled with fear. Your death is already destined. Don't even think about escaping. There are people guarding your divine kingdom. Wang Xian said calmly. When he learned that the 7 Stars Lord had also come to the Eternal Wind Field, Wang Xian had already made preparations. He had Qin Feiyang and the Divine Leaf Lord head to the Eternal 7 Stars to prevent the 7 Stars Lord from escaping. Although Wang Xian could still lock onto them with his current means even if they had escaped, he could still prevent them from escaping. However, in order to avoid unnecessary trouble, he instructed Qin Feiyang and the Divine Leaf God Lord to stand guard there. The 7 Stars God Lord would definitely die this time. Dragon King, don't push it too far. The 7 Stars God Lord trembled violently when he heard his words. His eyes turned blood-red instantly as he roared furiously. Kill! Wang Xian looked at his furious expression and a cold look appeared in his eyes. But Ao He, Ao Qitian, and Enlai, who were surrounding the God of 7 Stars, instantly moved under Wang Xian's command. Strike the God! Ao Xingmu shouted softly. In an instant, the God of 7 Stars was covered by terrifying thorns. At the same time, Ao Xingmu, Ao He, Enlai, and the rest were also covered by thorns. A battlefield that connected to the sky was completely covered by Ao Xingmu. Wang Xian looked over, but there were no fluctuations on his face. With the strength of Ao Ku and the rest, it was a piece of cake for them to destroy the 7 Stars Divine Lord. Take down everyone from the eternal 7 stars immediately. At the side, the god of wind expanse looked at the area that was surrounded by the thorns that connected to the sky. Waves of terrifying energy fluctuations came from within, and a hint of horror appeared on his face. Sweeping his gaze around, God Lord Huanyu immediately ordered his disciples. It's Lord God Lord. Eternal Huanyu's disciples also knew that they had to perform well in front of the Dragon King, so they immediately shouted out respectfully. They looked coldly at all the Eternal 7 Stars disciples, and their eyes revealed a sinister look. Please don't kill us, Dragon King. All the disciples of the Eternal 7 Stars knelt on the ground in horror and begged for mercy loudly. Kill the direct disciples of the 7 Stars Master. Wang Xian looked over and said indifferently, in order to cause unnecessary trouble, the direct disciples of the 7 Stars Master must be killed. It's the Dragon King. God Lord Huanyu nodded immediately at the side. Dragon King, we are willing to give the Dragon Palace the ocean of all the life planets in the entire southern region. We are willing to offer all the resources. He hesitated for a moment before gritting his teeth and continuing to speak to Wang Xian. Yes. Wang Xian nodded his head faintly. Your eternal wind expanse does not have much of a grudge against our Dragon Palace. In the future, the southern region will still be your world. Our Dragon Palace will only rule the Water Tribe. Yes, yes. When the Divine Lord of Wind Expanse heard Wang Xian's words, he heaved a sigh of relief. Ah! At this moment, a scream was heard from the area where the heaven-reaching thorns were entangled. The Lord of Wind Expanse took a look and his eyes sparkled. In the entire boundless galaxy, the Eastern Divine Leaf God was on good terms with the Dragon Palace while the Northern Thunderclap God Lord was on the run. The Central 7 Stars were about to be killed while the Western Twin Foxes were already destroyed. Only Eternal Wind Expanse of the South was still around. Overall, Eternal Wind Expanse of the South had a better ending. Thinking of this, he felt much more relaxed. Although the price he had to pay was relatively high, at least Eternal Wind Expanse of the South was still around, and there were no casualties. That's good, that's good. He mumbled and secretly glanced at Wang Xian who was beside him. In the future, the Dragon King would be revered in the entire boundless star field. With such strength and influence, no one could defeat him. He has comprehended at least 2 laws. He mumbled. Boom, 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 buzz, buzz, buzz. At this moment, the heaven and earth began to tremble. The body of the god of wind expanse trembled. Everyone around quickly raised their heads and looked at the sky. Crack, crack, crack. In the middle of the square, the thorn that reached the sky slowly disappeared. On the ground, there was a corpse lying quietly on the ground. He was killed so quickly. Everyone around took a deep breath when they saw this scene, and their faces were full of shock. I'm so glad that the Divine Lord of the Dragon Palace made a choice just now. The Divine Lord of the Dragon Palace is not simple either. God Lord Huanyu wiped the sweat from his forehead and glanced at Ao Xie and the others with some fear. It had only been a few minutes, and he had completely killed the 7-star Divine Lord in less than a minute. Such terror, who would dare to be his enemy? What happened? At the same time, the entire planet saw the wailing of heaven and earth, and the rain of blood pouring down from the sky. Everyone's faces were filled with shock. They raised their heads, and a wave of grief could not be stopped. This is, a God Lord has fallen. What exactly happened? Just now, God Lord Fenghuan and the Dragon King were fighting in the void, and it seemed like the 7-star God Lord was heavily injured. Could it be that God Lord Fenghuan has fallen? And what was that thorny thing just now? That vast energy that was sealed, what exactly happened? On the planet, the disciples of Eternal Huanyu and the people who had come to inquire about the news were filled with shock. Chapter 22-28 22-28 Boundless, Dragon Palace as King 2. All Eternal Wind Universe disciples, listen up. From today onwards, the eternal wind universe will be ruled by the Dragon Palace and the Dragon King as king. Everyone on the entire planet looked up at the bloody rain in the sky in shock. Someone had seen such a bloody rain before. It had covered several planets over 1,000 years ago by the eternal twin foxes. This was the heaven and earth phenomenon caused by the fall of the God Lord. The entire planet was shaking. However, at this moment, God Lord Fenghuan's voice rang out and entered everyone's ears. Everyone was slightly stunned, and then their eyes slowly widened. This is God Lord Fenghuan's voice. Eternal Fenghuan surrenders to the Dragon King? Hiss, God Lord Fenghuan is still alive. That means the 7-star God Lord has been killed by the Dragon King and the others. Oh my God, another God Lord has fallen and another God Lord has been killed by the Dragon Palace. Everyone's mouths were slightly agape. They were filled with disbelief. The matter with the 7-star God Lord has been resolved. Let's go and destroy the Thunder God Lord. Wang Xian took a glance at God Lord Fenghuan and said to Ao He and the rest, "It's the Dragon King." Ao He and the rest nodded their heads. "Dragon King, you go and destroy the Lord of Shocking Thunder. Do you know where he is?" When the Lord of Universal Wind heard Wang Xian's words, his body trembled. "You can check." Wang Xian looked at him indifferently. But, with a wave of his arm, the blood vessels of the formation were connected. The mirror image of the formation. The two formations were activated instantly. In front of them, the scene of the eternal divine kingdom of the Lord of Shocking Thunder appeared. Formation, black hole. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled. He set up the black hole formation and looked at the surrounding members of the Dragon Palace. "Let's go," he said faintly. "Yes." Ao He, Ao Xingmu, and the rest nodded immediately. The group of Dragon Palace members entered the black hole. Wang Xian walked to the front of the black hole and waved his arm. He took the bloodlines in his hand. But the next moment he stepped into the black hole and disappeared instantly. When God Lord Fenghuan saw this scene, he was shocked. "What is this? A formation?" His eyes sparkled. As a God Lord, he knew a little about formations. When he saw such a method, his eyes were filled with shock. The picture just now is the divine kingdom of the Thunder God Lord. The Dragon King found the Thunder God Lord through this method. No wonder the Twin Fox God Lord had already escaped back to the divine kingdom and was killed by the Dragon King and the others. This method. Fear flashed in the eyes of the Wind Expanse God Lord. With such a strange method, even if he wanted to escape, he couldn't. Who? Eternal Wind Expanse disciples, prepare all the resources we have and send them to the boundless Sea Dragon Palace. He ordered the disciples around him. Yes. The Eternal Wind Expanse disciples who had witnessed the Dragon King's strength weren't surprised at all and immediately responded. What happened on Eternal Wind Expanse's side spread to the other planets at a terrifying speed. When everyone learned that the 7-star God Lord had been killed by the Dragon King and Eternal Wind Expanse had submitted, countless people were shocked. One had been killed, and the other had submitted. The entire boundless star field was now under the control of the Dragon Palace. When the other big and small forces in the boundless star field received the news, they were all shocked, and their eyes sparkled. Even the Eternal Wind world had submitted to them. What about them? In the past, the 5 great God Lords kept each other in check, and the God Lord level forces couldn't spread far. Now that the God Lord level forces had submitted, and the Dragon Palace wanted the ocean of all the planets, why wouldn't they submit? Even if the Dragon Palace didn't need them to submit, they had to show their loyalty. All the forces had decided to go to the boundless sea as soon as possible to show their loyalty and give them treasures. Just as the news of the 7-star God Lord being destroyed by the Dragon Palace and Eternal Wind Universe submitting spread to all the planets. In the east at the edge of the eastern region. Further east at the edge of the eastern region was the boundless void. The boundless star field was very large, but many people in the boundless star field didn't know about the void further away. The universe was vast and boundless, and the universe was more like a lifeless void. Take the surroundings of the infinite star field as an example. No one knew what galaxy was around the infinite star field. Even the eternal God Lord had never left the infinite star field before. There was once a God Lord who flew in a certain direction for a few years, but didn't find any galaxy and came straight back. God Masters were also afraid of being lost in the vast void space. Besides, the universe was not completely silent. There were universe storms, space beasts, and universe turbulence. There were also some naturally formed deadlands that were extremely dangerous. In the face of some universe disasters, God Masters were like ants. In a void space close to the edge of the eastern region, there was a distance of more than 1 billion kilometers from the eastern region. At such a distance and in such a deep place, there were no signs of life. And in the center of a few meteorites, there was a vast eternal kingdom located in the center. After the Thunder God Lord escaped from the energy tide, he directly escaped into this void. The eternal kingdom was very large, and there were many of his lovers and servants in it. The Thunder God Lord was prepared to hide here for more than 10 years before he left. He didn't believe that the Dragon Palace would keep looking for him. In a hall in the Eternal Kingdom, he was sitting and reading some information. Although he was hiding here, he still had some loyal subordinates who were sending him some information about the endless star field. Whoosh, 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 boom, 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 boom. At this moment, the entire Eternal Kingdom suddenly trembled. What happened? The Thunder God Lord was slightly stunned. He moved his body and immediately appeared in the sky above the Eternal Kingdom. Dragon King. When he arrived in the sky above the Eternal Kingdom and saw Wang immortal in the void, he was slightly shocked. His expression instantly darkened and revealed a panicked look. Dragon King, how did you guys find this place? He widened his eyes and roared at them with a gloomy face. You don't need to know. Kill him. Wang Xian said indifferently. Yes. In an instant, Ao He, Ao Xingmu, and the rest began to move. At this moment, the surrounding thorns had sealed off the entire Divine Kingdom. Even the Divine Kingdom was entangled by thorns. Damn it! Damn it! Feeling the terrifying might of Ao He and the other two, his heart pounded violently. Why was there another god-level powerhouse in the Dragon Palace? His face was filled with disbelief. Run, run, run. The Thunder God Lord had no intention of resisting. His body shook and he was prepared to flee immediately. The entire Eternal Divine Kingdom emitted vast thunderbolts that covered a radius of tens of millions of kilometers. Can you escape? Wang Xian floated in the void quietly. Looking at the anxious and terrified Thunder God Lord, his face was filled with mockery. With the current Dragon Palace, it was too easy to kill the Lord of Thunderbolt. Chapter 2229. 2229 Boundless, Dragon Palace as King 3. Devour. In the vast void, the Dragon Palace slowly emerged behind Wang Xian and started to devour the vast Eternal Kingdom. The Thunder God Lord was dead. Wang Xian was not surprised by this result at all. After finding his hiding place, the fate of the Thunder God Lord was already decided. This was the third God Lord who died at the hands of the Dragon Palace. One of them had comprehended the Fire Law, one of the Thunder Law, and one of the Earth Law. The three laws corresponded to the three divine kingdoms. If the Dragon Palace wanted to level up, they still needed to devour the eternal divine kingdoms with the other 6 attributes. Let's go back. As Wang Xian spoke, he immediately set up a black hole array and flew toward the center of the boundless sea. Let's go and take Huar and Kair with us so that they won't blame themselves. Halfway through, when he passed by the eternal divine leaf, Wang Xian paused for a moment and revealed a smile on his face. He took a look at the starry sky chart and immediately flew towards the location of the eternal divine leaf. In the eternal divine kingdom of the divine leaf god, after Wang Xian arrived, he asked the members of the Dragon Palace to wait. Dragon King. Greetings, Dragon King. When everyone in the eternal divine leaf saw Wang Xian, their bodies trembled slightly. They hurriedly greeted Wang Xian. Okay. Wang Xian nodded his head faintly and walked straight in. Along the way, all the disciples of Eternal Leaf stopped immediately when they saw Wang Xian and greeted him respectfully. Who didn't know about the strength of the Dragon King, the Dragon Palace's Eternal Leaf? This was especially so when the news of the Seven Stars Divine Lord being destroyed by the Dragon Palace and Eternal Wind World submission was first reported to Eternal Leaf. Everyone was extremely shocked. Now that they saw the Dragon King, they all greeted him respectfully. I remember that 5 or 6 years ago, the Dragon King stepped into our eternal divine leaf as the godfathers of the 2 princesses. At that time, the Dragon King's strength was at most 9 wisps of divine fire, and the Dragon Palace was also a nameless force. Now that the Dragon King's strength is heaven-defying, and the Dragon Palace is invincible in the world, this is really the luck of our Dongfang divine leaf. Yeah. Who would have thought that the Dragon Palace, which came from the Vipralopa land, would be so terrifying now? The current Dragon Palace can easily destroy us. Some people looked at Wang Xian's back and whispered among themselves. Dragon King. When they approached the eternal divine tree, the surrounding guards immediately bowed respectfully. Yes, I'm here to look for the 2 girls. Wang Xian nodded at them and said with a smile. Dragon King. The 2 princesses are inside. I'll bring you there. The guards led the way respectfully. Soon, there were a few experts from the eternal divine leaves around Wang Xian. Each of them pointed the way. Huar Kaya. When they arrived above the eternal divine tree, Wang Xian shouted into the tree. Old Wang, you still know to come and look for us. The 2 girls who knew that Wang Xian was coming ran out from the tree and said with displeasure on their faces. This was the second time that Wang Xian had come to look for them in 5 to 6 years. Naturally, the 2 girls had a lot of opinions. Aren't you a little busy? Now that everything has been settled, I'm here to bring you to the Dragon Palace of the Boundless Sea to have some fun. Wang Xian stroked their heads with a smile on his face. Are you a little busy? Why did we hear that our Dragon King killed the 2 fox gods and exterminated the eternal 2 foxes in a fit of anger? Huar rolled her eyes at him and teased him. Hee, who did you 2 girls listen to? Are you leaving or not? I've gotten a lot of good stuff recently. You can choose whatever you like as compensation. Wang Xian laughed and quickly changed the topic. Hee, you said it yourself. We will bring mother along this time. Hua Kair's eyes lit up and she quickly nodded her head. All right. Let's go together. You can stay there for a few years and tour the boundless galaxy. In the future, no one will dare to bully you in the entire boundless galaxy. Wang Xian said with a smile. Although Hua Kair was the daughter of the Master of God, they didn't dare to step into the northern region in the past. Neither did they dare to rashly enter the territory of other Masters of God. Now, who would dare to provoke them? That's right. Who would dare to provoke us in the future? The 2 little girls raised their heads with pride on their faces. Their faces were filled with pride. Little brother Wang Xian. At this moment, Madame Shinai, who had received the news, walked over with a smile on her face. She greeted Wang Xian with a smile. Mom, let's go. Let's go to the boundless sea and old Wang's place. Hua Kair said excitedly. Madame Shinai, you look good. Wang Xian looked at Hua Kair's mother with a glint in his eyes. Back then, her face was full of snow-white hair. Now, her hair had turned black and her body had undergone a huge change. My lifespan was forcefully extended by Shen Yi. I have to thank little brother Wang Xian for the current situation. Since you are going to use the divine branches to put out the fire, I have now comprehended a hint of the law of spring after a dead tree. Madame Xinyi said with a smile. Oh, you have comprehended a hint of the law. Madame Shinai, Huar, and Kair are going to the Dragon Palace this time. With the help of some treasures in the Dragon Palace, Madam Shinai, you will be able to level up to the level of an eternal divine lord. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and said, "Really, old Wang?" Hua's eyes lit up. She grabbed his arm and said excitedly, "You two girls should know the energy of the ancestral tree in the Dragon Palace. There shouldn't be too much of a problem. Furthermore, some of the treasures in the Dragon Palace are enough to build an eternal divine kingdom." Wang Xian said with a smile. "Thank you, little brother Wang Xian." A hint of excitement flashed across Madame Xinye's eyes. "Moi." The two girls smiled happily. "Let's go, let's go." They grabbed Wang Xian's arm and said happily, "All right, we just killed the Lord of Thunderbolt and passed by here. There are still members of the Dragon Palace outside. Let's go." Wang Xian nodded and said to the two girls, "Lord of Shocking Thunder? Old Wang, have you found him?" The two girls were slightly stunned and asked immediately, "Can he escape from my hands?" Wang Xian joked, Awesome, let's go." Kair walked out happily. But Prime Minister Gray, inform everyone that the Dragon Palace will host a banquet for all the forces in the boundless galaxy in 10 days. Also, announce that the Dragon Palace will open its Dragon Gate in 10 days. All aquatic creatures that pass through the Dragon Gate can join the Dragon Palace. He brought Kair and their mother to the Dragon Palace. He ordered Prime Minister Gray. Now that the Double Fox God Lord, the Thunder God Lord, and the Seven-Star God Lord had been destroyed, Eternal Wind had submitted, and Dongfang Shinai had become his friend. Then it was time for the Dragon Palace to announce to the world that they were sovereign. Moreover, the Dragon Palace would also need to recruit a large number of disciples. Chapter 2230. 2230 Boundless, Dragon Palace as King 4. More than a year ago, the Seven-Star God Lord told the Thunder God Lord that the Seven-Star God Lord had been killed by the Dragon Palace and the Eternal Wind had submitted. It is said that the Thunder God Lord has been killed by the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace. The entire boundless star field is now under the control of the Dragon Palace. In addition, the Dragon King will invite all the forces of the boundless star field to a banquet in the boundless star field in 10 days. At the same time, he will announce a huge news. All the aquatic divine beasts and demon beasts of the boundless star field can break through the Dragon Palace's Dragon Gate. Intruders can join the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace will only accept disciples from the aquatic divine beasts. Hiss! This is the good news for all the aquatic divine beasts and demon beasts. Crazy, all the aquatic creatures have gone crazy after hearing this news. The news of the Seven-Star God Lord's death, the news of Eternal Wind's submission, and the Dragon Palace's banquet spread across the entire boundless region. The first reaction of everyone and all the factions after receiving the news was to prepare to head to the boundless sea in 10 days. The water tribe demonic beasts and divine beasts became even crazier and immediately set off to head to the boundless sea. Join the Dragon Palace. This was a sky-high achievement for any water tribe creature. What kind of existence was the Dragon Palace now? It was the overlord of the entire boundless star field. As long as one could join the Dragon Palace, it was equivalent to a sky-high achievement. Countless demonic beasts and divine beasts immediately headed to the boundless sea. All the forces were preparing all kinds of treasures and resources to come. Who dared to disobey the order of the Dragon King now? Little brother Wang Xian, thank you so much. Little brother, your Dragon Palace is a little special. In the future, I'll inform someone to free up the sea. Your Dragon Palace can build a Dragon Palace there. At this moment, in the Dragon Palace, Divine Master Shinai was looking at his wife who was cultivating under the ancestral tree with her legs crossed. His face was filled with excitement. When he looked at the ancestral tree, he was also extremely excited. Thank you very much, Brother Shinai. Wang Xian smiled and revealed a smile. We are a family. It's too polite to say too much. Divine Leaf Master shook his head. Now that his two daughters were doted on by the Dragon King, they could even choose the treasures in the eternal divine kingdom of the 7-star master of the god of thunder. His wife was cultivating in the Dragon Palace and had the chance to comprehend the laws and become the eternal master. In that case, what else could he, Divine Leaf Master, ask for? With the relationship between his daughters, what was wrong with giving the planets to the Dragon King, let alone the ocean? After all, everyone knew that the boundless galaxy would belong to the Dragon Palace in the future. As the two daughters of the Dragon King and the two pampered girls, the boundless galaxy would belong to the two girls as well. That's true. Brother Shinai will stay here for a period of time and leave after sister-in-law becomes the God Lord. Brother Shinai and the disciples of Eternal Shinai will also come to the banquet in a few days. Wang Xian said to him. All right. Sorry to bother you then. I won't bother you. The last time I went to Eternal Shinai, Brother Shinai treated me with great hospitality. This time, I will be the host. The two of them laughed and conversed. Old Wang, come over here. Sister Feng Wan has lit the 9th wisp of divine fire. At this moment, Hua Er's loud voice could be heard. Wang Xian shook his head and gestured to the divine leaf god before flying towards the dragon field. When he arrived at the dragon field, Wang Xian saw a pair of wings sprouting from Feng Wan's back in the sky. She was flapping her wings beautifully. Feng Wan. Wang Xian looked at the girls around him and shouted at Feng Wan. Little Xian, I have lit up the 9th wisp of divine fire. Now I can fight against the god. Feng Wan said with a smile. There's no rush to cultivate slowly. Don't tire yourself out. Wang Xian walked over and patted her head. I know. Feng Wan nodded her head. Ever since Qin Yu and Ling Xiu left, the group of girls had been cultivating diligently. Apparently, the previous incident had dealt a huge blow to them. In the next period of time, you guys should stop cultivating and tour the boundless sea with the two little girls. Tour the entire boundless star field. I'll settle the matter between Qingyue and Ling Xiu in the future. I'll get them back. You guys must know that Qingyue is the only ancient god Kuan-herding master in the universe. Wang Xian consoled the group. Wang Xian wasn't too worried about Lan Qingyue and Sun Ling Xiu. It had been more than a year now and nothing had happened to the two of them. It was unlikely that anything would happen to them in the future. Lan Qingyue, who had the inheritance of the ancient god's Kuan-feeding master, had many tricks up her sleeves. The Kuan in the universe fed on the dragons and phoenixes, which were peak bloodlines. The next time they met, Lan Qingyue might be even more powerful. Okay. The group of girls nodded their heads and felt a little better. In the next few days, Wang Xian accompanied the group of girls to stroll around the boundless sea. Wang Xian was not too familiar with the boundless sea. The group of them were relaxed and happy every day. During these few days, all the major forces in the boundless galaxy surged into the boundless sea. Almost 50% of the experts and disciples of the Eternal Wind Expanse and Eternal Divine Leaf had come. Tens of billions of people had gathered around the boundless sea. Around the boundless sea, many continents were floating. As Wang Xian's mother planet, Earth was also brought to the sky above the boundless sea by Wang Xian. The entire boundless sea was bustling and bustling. The arrival of all the major forces did not cause any commotion. There wasn't even any conflict. This was because no one dared to fight here. Apart from the tens of billions of people, there were also tens of billions of aquatic creatures. There were even more aquatic creatures rushing over. Once they could break through the Dragon Gate, they would leap over the Dragon Gate and soar into the sky. This is our Earth's Dragon Palace, the Dragon King. All the people on Earth looked at this grand event with pride on their faces. Now, when they walked out and talked about coming from Earth, all of them looked at them with envy. Even the disciples of some powerful forces didn't dare to provoke the people of Earth for no reason. Set up the formation. On the last day of the 10-day banquet, All the members of the Fire Hammer clan of the Dragon Palace flew to the sky above the boundless sea. They floated to the surface of the sea and took out formation compasses. These were the compasses they had made. The compasses were thrown into the sky, and a huge dreamy space appeared out of thin air. They used the earth element to form a ground, and the metal element to form tables and chairs. It was a vast square that could be entered by hundreds of millions of people. At the front of the square, there were two big words, Dragon Palace. The two words were shining and giving off a vast power. Hiss, what's that? On the surrounding continents, everyone was shocked when they saw the majestic square formed by the array formation. Tomorrow, we will worship the Dragon King. At this moment, everyone's hearts were filled with awe. Chapter 2231. 2231 2231 Lord of the Endless Sea. Enter one by one and find a place to sit according to your strength. The next morning, a voice sounded in the sky above the endless sea. Tens of billions of people had gathered around the endless sea. When they heard the voice, they immediately flew toward the square that was formed by the formation above the endless sea. At the entrance, Ao Yaksha, a member of the Dragon Protection Department of the Dragon Palace, led his subordinates to guard it. He held a trident in his hand and was about 3 meters tall. Each of his body exuded a powerful force. The Dragon Palace had destroyed the Eternal Twin Foxes, the Eternal Thunderbolts, and the Eternal Seven Stars. The number of members who had lit the divine fire in the Dragon Palace had reached more than 2,000. Among them, 3,000 members had reached the peak of the demigod realm and possessed the combat power of a wisp of divine fire. In the past year, the Dragon Palace's strength had increased tremendously. Come on, let's go. I haven't seen the Dragon King yet. I'm finally lucky enough to see him today. I wonder what the Dragon King will announce today. Some people entered with curiosity, awe, and worry. To build such a huge and majestic square in just a few minutes, the Dragon Palace is really powerful. Some people entered the huge and majestic square, their eyes full of shock. At the front of the square, there was a huge statue of a divine dragon. The 7-colored divine dragon was exuding a powerful majesty. Even a statue is exuding a terrifying aura. The forces that came and looked around with their eyes wide open. Those are the people from the Eternal Divine Leaf. The people from the Eternal Divine Leaf have arrived early. Some people looked to the left of the center and saw that there were already several million people gathered there. I heard that the 2 daughters of the Divine Leaf Master who went missing and died were raised by the Dragon King after they were resurrected. The relationship between the Eternal Divine Leaf and the Dragon King is very good. Some people heard some rumors and discussed in low voices. That's someone from the Eternal Chun clan. According to Divine Lord Shan Yu's wife, the Dragon King is the savior of Divine Lord Shan Yu. Now that the Dragon King has let the Eternal Chun clan control the western region, I'm really envious. That Divine Lord Shan Yu's wife is really lucky. Divine Lord Shan Yu is the youngest Eternal Divine Lord. Lucky? Then you don't know who the Mountain God Lord's wife is? The Mountain God Lord's wife is the biological sister of the Dragon King's only disciple, the Dragon Queen's disciple. Damn, I didn't expect the Mountain God Lord's wife to have such a deep background. The people who came and looked at the Eternal Chun clan's position and discussed animatedly. See, the one next to the Eternal Chun clan is the Dragon King's disciple. He has already ignited 7 wisps of divine fire. Only 7 wisps of divine fire? The power of 7 wisps of divine fire is a little low. What do you know? This disciple of the Dragon King is only in his 30s. You said that his power is a little low. He lit 7 wisps of divine fire in his 30s. How is this possible? How is this possible? Discussions and exclamations could be heard as the various major forces walked toward the seats one by one. Make way, make way. Eternal Wind Expanse Master has arrived. He has personally brought his disciples here. At this moment, voices could be heard from behind, and some people hurriedly made way. The once 5 great godlords of the endless star field were now only left with Godlord Shinai and Godlord Fenghuan. Although Eternal Wind Expanse had submitted to the Dragon Palace, their strength had not decreased. Now, apart from the Dragon Palace and Eternal Divine Leaf, they were still the strongest. Even the Eternal Chen clan was much weaker than them. Hee. Godlord Wind Expanse, who was standing at the front, glanced around and walked straight toward the unknown. Little brother Shao ran, Mountain Godlord. Godlord Wind Expanse walked to the position next to the Eternal Chen clan and cupped his hands toward Shao Ranchen and the others. Godlord Wind Expanse. The two immediately stood up and responded politely. There's no one around, right? Then we'll take our seats. Godlord Huanyu gestured to the seats next to him and said with a smile. Godlord Huanyu, Eternal Huanyu, please take your seats. Chen Feiyang raised his head slightly and said. Eternal Huanyu and the others sat next to him with smiles on their faces. More and more people gathered in the square. Soon, there were more than 100 million people. The members of the Foxmark Divine Clan are here. All of a sudden, surprised voices arose. At least tens of millions of people looked at the entrance. The Foxmark Divine Clan is the one who has reached the sky in one step. Some people said slowly. Walking past the members of the Foxmark Divine Clan in front of so many people, they were filled with emotion. More than a year ago, they had a glorious time. However, that glorious time was only in the western region. Now, it was in the entire Boundless Star area. From the looks of the other forces, they could see how envious the Fox Pattern Divine Clan was. Hu Fei has really given birth to a good daughter. Some disciples of the Fox Pattern Divine Clan slightly raised their heads, their faces full of pride. The Hu Wen celestial race had been walking forward, sitting next to the Eternal Divine Leaf. In 2 hours, almost all the forces in the endless star field had arrived. Buzz! At this time, Divine Lord Shinai and his wife walked out from the seabed behind them, heading straight for the Eternal Divine Leaf. The Dragon King is coming out. Seeing Divine Master Shinai and the rest coming out, some people thought to themselves, roar! At this moment, a dragon roar came from behind. Splash! On the surface of the water in front of them, figures slowly emerged. Wang Xian stood at the center and was surrounded by 10 girls. Prime Minister Gue stood at the right and front while a group of dragon guards accompanied him at the back. Wang Xian, who was draped in a colorful dragon robe, swept his gaze across everyone around him and walked forward indifferently. A group of girls and members of the Dragon Palace followed behind him. But when Wang Xian arrived at the front of the dragon throne, everyone from all the factions and demonic beasts stood up in unison, paying respects to the Dragon King. A deafening voice resonated in the sky above the boundless sea. All of them bowed and cupped their fists. Their faces were filled with respect. Sit down. Wang Xian nodded his head faintly. His voice entered everyone's ears. Thank you, Dragon King. Everyone from all the factions responded quickly and sat down on their seats. They looked at Wang Xian in awe and swept their gaze across everyone around him. That's the group of dragon queens. The 2 twins should be the daughters of the god of Shinai. As expected, the 2 daughters of the god of Shinai have a very high status in the Dragon Palace. That's Hu Yen from the Hu Wen celestial race. Some of them saw the group of girls sitting on the dragon throne and imprinted it into their minds. This was an existence that they could not afford to offend. It was also someone they needed to please. Chapter 2232. 2232 On the battlefield of 2232 Divine Emperor. The Dragon Palace has gathered everyone here for no other reason. Firstly, the Dragon Palace will build a branch palace in the ocean of the life stars in the entire boundless galaxy. Secondly, from today onwards, all aquatic creatures will be able to break through the Dragon Gate. Those who break into the Dragon Palace will become disciples of the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace will not be involved in the rest of the matters in the boundless galaxy. Please do not harm the heavens. Wang Xian's voice reverberated in everyone's mind. He didn't say too many things. The Dragon Palace was only in charge of the ocean in the boundless galaxy. The Dragon Palace couldn't do anything else. Currently, the Dragon Palace only had more than 50,000 disciples and 700 to 800 life planets in the boundless galaxy. In comparison, the Dragon Palace had too few people. It was already considered good enough to be able to control the ocean completely. Even if the Dragon Palace recruited a large number of members in the future, the number would only be more than 100,000 at most. Of course, there was a prerequisite. The devouring dragon in Ao Crab's body was not included. The devouring dragon in Ao Crab's body had now reached more than 1 million. However, this devouring dragon could not be compared to the ordinary members of the Dragon Palace. Next, the major forces offered congratulatory gifts to the Dragon King, the Dragon Palace, and so on. Every force that could enter this place had a few godly state experts. The items that they brought out were at least at the godly state level. The gifts that were sent over by so many forces were also extremely huge resources. They were even comparable to the treasure trove of an eternal level force. All kinds of treasures were sent over. At the last moment, even the Divine Leaf Master sent a gift. It was a withered sapling. When Wang Xian looked at the sapling, he could feel the ancestral tree trembling slightly. This made his eyes light up. However, Wang Xian did not look at it on the spot. The entire huge banquet lasted for about 5 hours. The Dragon Palace had prepared some food. More than 100 million people were dining together. Such a scene was extremely grand. Since the end of the banquet, it was time for countless aquatic creatures to celebrate. Countless aquatic creatures rushed toward the Dragon Gate crazily. They jumped through the Dragon Gate and turned into dragons. As long as they could enter the Dragon Palace and become disciples of the Dragon Palace, they would become existences that no one dared to provoke in the endless star field. In the next few days, thousands of new members of the Dragon Palace joined every day. The Dragon Palace also began to cultivate the aquatic creatures that joined. Currently, the number of berserk dragon species in the Dragon Palace had reached a few hundred, and there were also 50 to 60 thorned dragon species. The strength of the Dragon Palace was improving rapidly every day. The Windbreaker Tree? Windbreaker Tree. In the Dragon King's Hall of the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian stood in front of the ancestral tree and looked at the branch of the Windbreaker Tree. His eyes were sparkling. This branch was given to him by the Divine Leaf God that day. This branch was one of the 3 branches that the Divine Leaf God had obtained when he was given a great opportunity. One of the branches was almost withered while the other branch of the Eternal Divine Tree was nurtured and placed in his Eternal Divine Kingdom. The last one was this Windbreaker Tree. According to the Divine Leaf God, this Windbreaker Tree was placed at the center. Its level is comparable to the soul-returning wood, endless wood. Other than increasing the cultivation speed of the members of the Wind Attribute Dragon Palace by 4 times, it doesn't seem to be of much use at the moment. Wang Xian mumbled to himself. Now, he had the endless wood, the soul-returning wood, the serval tree, and the nirvana lightning tree. Each of these trees possessed powerful abilities. Especially the soul-returning wood. My young friend, you have almost settled your matters here. When are you leaving? This area is still too remote. The spiritual energy is still considered average, but it's a little difficult to comprehend the laws. There are also fewer resources. With your talent, if you stay here for 1 more day, you will be wasting 1 day of your life. At this moment, the phantom of the god of heaven's formation appeared before Wang Xian and spoke to him. Go to that bright land? Wang Xian's eyes were sparkling. That's right. I'll find a backer for you when you get there so that you can increase your strength quickly. Also, didn't your little girlfriend also enter that place? It's a good time to go and look for her. The Divine Emperor of Heaven's Formation said directly. Yes, we have to go, but we have to wait. Wang Xian looked hesitant. Now that the Dragon Palace was the king of the boundless galaxy, and the Dragon Palace controlled most of the resources, the members of the Dragon Palace would improve very quickly in the future. However, it would be much more difficult to advance to the level of the Eternal Divine Lord. In fact, the current resources were no longer sufficient to support the members of the Dragon Palace to reach the level of the Eternal Divine Lord. Regardless of whether it was the resources of the boundless galaxy that had reached its limit or the matter of the beautiful green moon, Wang Xian had to go to that dazzling place. However, he wasn't planning to go there for the next 2 years. He had to accompany a group of girls and be fully prepared. Since young friend wants to wait, let's wait a little longer. During this period of time, you can learn the rest of the formations. It was obvious that the god of formation wanted Wang Xian to inherit his Tao of formations. Even if Wang Xian wanted to be his disciple, he also knew that Wang Xian's inheritance wasn't something that his Tao of formations could compare to. Unless he was a great wizard, he would only be qualified to take Wang Xian as his disciple. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head. Although the art of formations was of little value to Wang Xian in terms of combat, it was very good in terms of support, especially when it came to searching for people and targeting enemies. In the following period of time, Wang Xian accompanied a group of girls every day. When he was free, he would follow the god of formation to cultivate formations. The group of girls also knew that Wang Xian might be leaving after a period of time. They also cherished the time when he was around. Time passed slowly. A year or 2 years passed in the blink of an eye for them. 3 years later, Wang Xian brought the group of girls back to the Dragon Palace from the outside. During these 3 years, they toured more than half of the boundless star field and toured more than half of the mountains and rivers of the boundless star field. During the 3 years of free time, Wang Xian had also simulated the laws of formations and established the laws. Although he had mastered quite a lot of the laws of formations with his strength, he could only set up a level 1 formation of a master god. His combat strength could at most fight against a master god who had mastered 2 laws. Overall, his Tao of formations was still inferior to his own strength. After all, even a great wizard could only fight against a peak divine dragon. Back in the Dragon Palace, the Dragon Palace within a radius of thousands of kilometers was much more lively than before. Now, the members of the Dragon Palace had reached about 150,000. In 3 years, the Dragon Palace had increased by 100,000, and the number of members of the Dragon Palace was still increasing. After all the water tribes in the endless star field wanted to join the Dragon Palace. The number of water tribes was more than 1 trillion. Each member of the Dragon Palace was 1 in 100 million, or even 1 in 1 billion. The strength of the Dragon Palace had improved a lot in the past few years. With the resources that the Dragon Palace controlled, more than 10 godly state experts could be born every day. The number of members who had lit the godly fire had exceeded 5,000. Chapter 2233. 2233 2233 Divine Emperor Battlefield. There were 5,000 members of the Dragon Palace who had ignited the divine fire. There were also 10,000 peak stage demigod experts. All in all, it was equivalent to 15,000 divine realm experts. This number was absolutely invincible in the entire endless star field. Even if all the other gods were added together, there were not so many. However, this power was very weak in the eyes of the divine Emperor Tianqin. In his words, the divine realm was a stage that belonged to the heaven's chosen divine sons. Those who were less than 500 years old in the resplendent land were collectively known as youths. Those who were less than 2,000 years old were collectively known as youths. Many youths had already stepped into the divine realm. As for those heaven's chosen divine sons, they had already ignited 7 or 8 wisps, or even 9 wisps of divine fire when they were young. There were even some who had reached the peak of the godly state when they were young. And in the boundless galaxy, it was undoubtedly a pipe dream to reach 7 or 8 wisps of godly fire in 2,000 years. Xiao Ran had reached such strength at such a young age because he relied on Wang Xian. He had consumed the eternal embryo fruit and the eternal embryo fruit. These two fruits belonged to the pinnacle of the universe. Chen Feiyang was able to reach the godly master realm at such a young age because he was too lucky to obtain the inheritance of 2 godly masters consecutively. For a young man to have the strength of a god level, one could imagine how terrifying that place was. A powerful force, an army of tens of millions of warriors, all of them were at the god level. The eternal God Lord might only be a commander, only an undying God King could be a general. A land of cultivation. And according to Tianqian God Emperor, and the inheritance of the Dragon God, the true glorious land, the center of the universe with the richest resources. There, it was as glorious as the primeval era. The universe nurtured the most precious treasures of heaven and earth, and all races competed for it. Giants could chase the sun, draw a bow and shoot the sun, and uproot mountains and rivers. Even the celestial emperor of heaven's formation did not set foot in such a glorious place. Dragon King. Just as Wang Xian was deep in thought, Prime Minister Gui walked in and greeted him respectfully. The Dragon Palace will have to trouble you for the next period of time. Wang Xian said to him. Don't worry, Dragon King. Prime Minister Gui nodded his head heavily. I will make a trip out tomorrow. I don't know when I will be back for the time being. As Wang Xian spoke, he looked at the girls around him. We have been playing for 3 years. On the day you leave, we will also be in closed-door cultivation. The girls said to him. Let's go. Let's have a good rest tonight. Wang Xian said to them with a smile. The group of girls rolled their eyes at him. The next morning, Wang Xian came directly to the side of the energy tide through the teleportation formation of the Dragon Palace. Behind him, the group of girls, Hua Kaya, Master Chen Feiyang, and the rest followed him. Dragon King, this is the treasure-seeking ant that you left behind with us. An expert from the eternal divine leaf walked over and handed the treasure-seeking ant to him. I almost forgot about this little guy. Wang Xian smiled and reached out to take it. Let's go back. When my cultivation base reaches the level of the eternal divine master, I will be able to return to the Dragon Palace directly. He turned around to look at the people behind him and said with a smile. Little Xian, be careful. The group of girls said to him with concern. Don't worry. Wang Xian nodded his head heavily. Xiao Xian, you must bring Qin Yu and Ling Xiu back. Leave it to me. Wang Xian nodded his head at them. Then, he waved his hand and looked at the energy-tide black hole in front of him. Heaven formation, are you sure that the incipient saint wings can ignore the violent energy inside? He walked to the entrance of the energy-tide black hole and transmitted his voice to the divine emperor of sky formation behind him. Don't worry. I obtained this incipient saint wings by accident. It's very mysterious. Even when I was at my peak, I couldn't destroy it at all. However, I haven't been able to find out what abilities it has. Its level is definitely higher than the divine emperor of void. The Sky Array God Emperor replied. But Wang Xian nodded his head. His body shook and the incipient saint wings appeared on his back. He moved his body and stepped into the black hole of the energy tide. The enormous energy tide contained a terrifying power. A god master who had comprehended a law had to unleash his full strength in order to withstand this terrifying energy. However, the incipient saint wings completely ignored this energy and flew forward at a terrifying speed. This black hole was a little strange. It didn't appear in front of him the moment he stepped into it. Clearly, the distance between the black hole was a little long. Wang Xian flew in the pitch-black black hole for a few hours without seeing the end. The further he went in, the more violent the energy became. The distance between this black hole is so long. How did this black hole form? Wang Xian asked the god of heaven's formation with some doubts. The heaven-nibbling black hole is an extremely terrifying formation. I died in this formation. The deep voice entered Wang Xian's ears, causing him to be slightly stunned. The heaven-nibbling formation. The moment the formation is activated, tens of thousands of black holes will appear instantly. With the power of the black holes, everything in the formation will be torn apart. The god of heaven's formation's voice continued to enter his ears. Your enemy is very strong in that bright land. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and asked. One of the top few. The god of formation said plainly, but my young friend, don't worry. I have already fallen. No one will think that I'm still alive. Okay. Wang Xian nodded. Looking at the black hole in the void in front of him, he continued to accelerate. Are we there yet? After flying for more than 30 times and disappearing, a ray of light appeared in front of him. Be careful. That battle back then affected tens of billions of kilometers. The entire space has turned into an energy turbulence. This turbulence might cause the immortal king to fall. Listen to my command. At this moment, the voice of the god of heaven's formation suddenly entered Wang Xian's mind. He nodded his head with a solemn expression. Light appeared, but this kind of light was very strange. Red, green, blue, and green lights were reflected in his eyes. In the surroundings, energy was wreaking havoc. A large number of stars and meteorites were wreaking havoc in the space. Wang Xian took a glance at his surroundings. His eyes were filled with shock. Fly to the right. The god of heaven's formation immediately commanded. Wang Xian did not hesitate at all. He flew straight to the right. In the surroundings, Wang Xian could see many weapons floating in the air. There were also skeletons that were emitting light. The energy contained in these skeletons made Wang Xian's heart palpitate. Occasionally, he could see weapons floating in the air. Some were good and some were bad. All of them were divine weapons. Did you kill all these corpses? Wang Xian took a glance at them. He could see many of these corpses that contained powerful energy. It was hard to imagine how many of them there were in the entire area. If these corpses were collected, they could easily be forged into powerful divine weapons. Although they have ambushed the celestial emperor of Tiancheng, they will have to pay a heavy price if they want to kill me. Proud voice from Tiancheng God Emperor's mouth. Chapter 2234. 2234 in the Divine Emperor battlefield. That battle lasted for a whole year. The number of immortal godly monarchs who died in my hands reached more than 100,000. The number of godly master-level powerhouses was in the millions, and there were countless godly stage powerhouses. If they knew that I'm not dead yet and that they encountered an existence like you, they would definitely die of anger. An extremely carefree voice came from the god of formation's mouth. However, when Wang Xian heard his words, he was shocked. There are more than 100,000 immortal kings and a few million eternal god lords. Wang Xian asked in surprise. That's right, my friend. There's no name in the starry sky ahead because it's connected by several galaxies. If the boundless galaxy is placed here, it can only be said to be 1/100th of the size of a complete galaxy. And here, there are 7 galaxies. The Divine Emperor of Heaven's formation said indifferently. So big? Doesn't that mean that even the Eternal God would need 1 to 2 months to cross a galaxy? Wang Xian said in surprise. It would take 1 to 2 months to achieve teleportation in diameter. The Eternal God wouldn't dare to teleport recklessly in this region. There are many dangerous and unknown places. There are some places that the Divine Emperor wouldn't dare to enter. There are also some places that even the immortal king would be afraid to enter. Let me put it this way. There is a huge planet in the galaxy that is as big as the entire boundless galaxy. The God Emperor of Tiancheng said, A planet that is as big as the boundless galaxy? Wang Xian was extremely shocked. Wouldn't that mean that a city on this planet would take a god-level powerhouse 10 days to half a month to fly out of the city? This was simply terrifying. Humans are not the masters of the universe. At this moment, the god of heaven's formation suddenly said another sentence. Humans are not the masters of the universe. Wang Xian agreed with this sentence. In comparison, in the entire universe, humans could only be considered as a race with a relatively large number. Among the myriad of races in the universe, humans could only be ranked in the top 20. If it wasn't for the fact that humans were good at learning and using weapons, humans wouldn't even be ranked in the top 20. It's the same in this bright land. The space beasts, demons, universe-desolate beasts, and robots can all compete with humans. The Divine Emperor of Heaven Array continued his introduction. Robots. Wang Xian's eyes revealed a look of astonishment. That's right, they are robots. Robots created by humans. After they possess intelligence, they will form a brand new race of life. In this bright land, there is a race of robots. They are the masters and can fight against the God Emperor powerhouses. They are extremely powerful. Their learning ability is also very terrifying. All kinds of high-tech weapons can easily destroy planets. The God Emperor of Heaven's formation said slowly. Wang Xian was slightly moved when he heard his words. There is an energy storm ahead. Fly to the left immediately. Quick! The Celestial Emperor of Heaven's formation's reminder rang out. Wang Xian's body moved and he flew to the left immediately. Buzz, buzz, buzz. After avoiding the terrifying energy storm, Wang Xian swept his gaze across and discovered that a star that was the size of the moon was instantly annihilated. All that was left was a speck of dust. Wang Xian's pupils constricted slightly. Under such circumstances, it was as though he had been staying in the beginner's village all this while. When he suddenly came to the main city, he was surrounded by peerless experts. This was too difficult. Tianqin, where are we going now? Wang Xian immediately asked him. It's only 100 years since my death. Let's go to a nearby planet. I'll find you a backer there. Although the other party only has the strength of an immortal king, it should be enough. Tianqin immediately replied. After we get out, I will use the formation to look for Qingyu and Lingxiu. Wang Xian frowned slightly. Suddenly he saw a meteorite crashing towards him. His body moved and he quickly dodged to the side. Peng! The energy released by the meteorite was abnormally terrifying, causing Wang Xian's expression to change slightly. Peng! He stretched out his arm and turned it into a dragon claw that tore upwards. Boom! 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 The terrifying force caused him to retreat hundreds of thousands of meters. The clothes on his body were torn apart. Wang Xian moved his body and used energy to condense a set of clothes. He exhaled slightly. Be careful. This piece of energy is completely chaotic due to that huge battle. It will take at least 10 days for it to fly out of here. The god of formation reminded him. Okay. Wang Xian nodded his head and braced himself. 13 days later, at the edge of the famous battlefield of the Emperor's destruction in the Tianhai Galaxy, an extremely pathetic figure flew out. His clothes were tattered, and there were a few scars on his arms. Even his face had 2 scars. His clothes were burned by the true Samadhi fire, and the scars on his face were caused by the 4 layers of sword laws. If it wasn't for the Divine Emperor of Heaven's formation commanding him, he might not have been able to fly out for more than 10 days. Phew, this place is really dangerous. Wang Xian heaved a sigh of relief. There are still many formations that I set up in this place that have yet to be activated. The Divine Emperor wouldn't dare to venture out recklessly. If you didn't know that your girlfriend is still alive, I would have thought that 99% of you had already perished. The God of Heaven's formation said. I want to search for the location of Qingyu and the rest. Wang Xian did not hesitate at all. He immediately took out Qingyu and Lingxiu's hair and began to set up an array. Array formation, blood connection. Wang Xian immediately set up an array formation. However, what made his expression ugly was that the blood connection could not sense their location. If the blood connection cannot be sensed, there are only two possibilities. The distance is too far and your strength is too weak. It's better for you to improve your strength first. If you can reach the realm of the Void God Emperor, it won't be difficult to find two people. The Divine Emperor of Heaven's formation said to Wang Xian. Wang Xian nodded his head with a bad expression. It had been more than 4 years and the entire resplendent land was so big. If he wanted to find it as soon as possible, he had to improve his strength as soon as possible. Do you think the backer you found for me is reliable? Wang Xian asked. Don't worry. I was just pointing at a little fellow in the past. Although his talent is a little lacking, there's no need to mention his character. I won't reveal any information about my existence for the time being. You just have to give him this piece of paper. A piece of paper floated in front of Wang Xian. Wang Xian reached out and took it. There were no words on the paper. Instead, there was a voice message that could be heard when he opened it. Let's go. I'll guide you. The god of formation said. Wang Xian's body moved and he immediately flew forward. This was a vast void. He flew forward and soon he saw many huge stars. Some stars were burning with huge flames. It was extremely terrifying. Some stars had a terrifying suction force that made people tremble. This is the bright land. Chapter 2235. 2235-2235 Xian Tianzi's Thoughts. The Tianhai Galaxy was one of the 7 galaxies in the resplendent land. The natural selection continent was an incomparably vast continent. This was not a planet, but a continent that was perfectly round. Wang Xian looked at the continent in front of him and felt extremely tiny. This kind of continent was similar to the continent plates in the boundless galaxy that had a circumference of tens of millions of kilometers. It was not enough for those continental plates. Compared to the one in front of him, it looked extremely tiny. Wang Xian could see the thickness of the continental plates. He did not know how many kilometers thick they were. Even with his current strength, he could not see the bottom at a glance. The entire continent was filled with the aura of desolation. However, the continent in front of him was filled with a sense of technology. Cars and airplanes shuttled between the ground and the air. It was filled with sci-fi. However, in this sci-fi, trees that were 10,000 meters tall rose up from the ground. Their branches and leaves were lush. There were some huge birds and beasts flying in the sky. It looked like it was filled with fantasy. This is the natural selection continent. It is a continent with no night. It has always been under the illumination of the sun. In the past, the development of technology was the main focus of the natural selection continent. After the development of technology reached a bottleneck, it entered an era of cultivation. Emperor Tiancheng's voice entered Wang Xian's mind. He was obviously very familiar with the planet in front of him. This continent is really strange. How high is the level of technology here? Wang Xian looked around with curiosity. It can eliminate existences at the level of the eternal God Lord, but it is impossible to surpass the level of the eternal God Lord. There are more than a dozen immortal godly monarchs on this continent. This place is completely different from the boundless galaxy. Be it technology, arrays, or cultivation, they have already formed a system. There are a few powerful organizations. From now on, it will be much more convenient for you to join these organizations. The Divine Emperor of Heaven Array introduced to him. Continue flying forward. Following that, he continued to give orders. Wang Xian nodded his head and flew straight towards the Tianzi continent. As soon as he reached the main road, Wang Xian sensed a feeling of being monitored. It's the Heaven's Eye, the most advanced technology in the Tianzi continent. By scanning with the Heaven's Eye, it can detect if you are a wanted criminal. The God of Heaven's formation transmitted his voice. Heaven's Eye? Wang Xian was slightly taken aback. He looked a little surprised. In the major planets of the 7 galaxies, most of the technology and formations are connected. Once some of the most vicious criminals are wanted, they can be found on other planets. Of course, there are also some planets that do not prohibit these people from entering. These planets often involve darkness. The celestial emperor of heaven's formation introduced. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled. He had a vague idea of this bright land. In the bright land, humans were not the dominant force. Therefore, humans were more united. The major planets were connected together like an internet. Any criminals who entered could be seen directly. This was very beneficial to a planet, a continent, and a faction. Normally, no one would reject it. Furthermore, humans are not the dominant force in this bright land. As humans are facing a threat, the major planets can teleport. Therefore, the security of the various places is better. Although this starry sky is still under the control of the major forces, there will basically be no indiscriminate killing of innocent people, even the disciples of the major forces. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the sky and continued to fly. The divine emperor of heaven's formation continued to explain to him. Why? Upon hearing his words, Wang Xian was slightly stunned. Because once the ruler of a force does things unfairly and oppresses others, it will result in the loss of population. In a place like this where one can teleport to a planet, when ordinary people see such a situation, they will choose to go somewhere else. The loss of population means the loss of the strong. It will be extremely difficult to fight against other powerful existences. As time goes on, they will either perish or dissipate. The celestial emperor of heaven's formation explained the rules of this resplendent place to Wang Xian. The strong could not kill the innocent, on the premise that the weak could not provoke them. The various major factions would not bully others based on their power. They would even do so in order to ensure the morale of the people in their respective regions. It would be fair and just. This was a pretty good environment for competition. Because humans are not the rulers of this region, the major factions do not dare to do as they please. This environment is pretty good. Wang Xian thought to himself. There was no control in the sky. The people flying around were very fast. Wang Xian scanned his surroundings and realized that he could see the god-level powerhouses. Among the 1,000 people, there was probably one powerhouse who had ignited the divine fire. However, there were not many god-level powerhouses. Wang Xian had only seen one after flying for more than 2 hours. God-level powerhouses were very ordinary. A god-level powerhouse could be called a powerhouse. An immortal god king could oversee a region and suppress a planet. The planet here was much bigger than the boundless galaxy. One planet was equivalent to 500 to 600 life planets in the boundless galaxy. The difference was huge. We are here, Xian Heaven Domain. After flying for more than 10 hours, the celestial emperor of heaven's formation's notification sounded. Wang Xian looked ahead. In the middle of a huge canyon, there was an entrance. The entrance was more than 100 kilometers wide, and there were people and cars coming in and out. In the sky above the canyon, there was a huge arched door with the words Xian Territory written on it. Go to the Xian Academy in the Xian Territory. The celestial emperor of formation instructed him directly. Wang Xian nodded and entered immediately. The entire Xian Heaven Domain looked extremely vast. Waves of majestic energy came from within. In the surroundings, Wang Xian saw numerous gigantic divine trees. These divine trees possessed intelligence. Some of them even had the appearance of a human. Wang Xian scanned his surroundings and was slightly shocked. Vast. Compared to the boundless star field, there was a huge difference. Even the Dragon Palace was far from it. After flying for another 7 to 8 hours, Wang Xian saw an incomparably huge academy. Ancient buildings, vast ancient pagodas, and majestic energy. As well as those laws that made one's heart tremble. Non-Xian Academy disciples are prohibited from entering. When Wang Xian stepped into the entrance of Xian Tian Academy, a middle-aged man at the guard's office stared at him and said indifferently, "I'm here to look for Senior Xian Tianzi." Wang Xian looked at the middle-aged man and said directly, "Xian Tian." The middle-aged man was slightly stunned. Then, his expression turned cold as he sized up the man from head to toe. "It's not easy to meet our dean. It's also not easy to meet anyone. Let's go," he said directly. Meet their dean? Who is their dean? An undying god-king level existence, the strongest in the entire dark sky domain, one of the pinnacle experts of the Tianze continent. How could anyone meet him? Those who were qualified to meet their dean wouldn't do it this way. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.